Okay, it seems like I'm back. So wait, am I supposed to? Oh, okay. Um, okay, okay. So, I do have to wait over here for like, um, I believe I'm back. This is a lot more better. Um, I feel like I could never win because I have like no idea about any of this stuff. Okay. Whoever gave me the one like on Rumble, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because like I said, I don't know how to use Rumble. I don't. Um, I don't know how to use Rumble. Um, okay. So this is what we're gonna do. I am just gonna play the Jim Cornette clip. It is an hour long, which is not that bad. I enjoy listening to Jim Cornette. I've done it before on YT on my other channel, and we're gonna just listen to it. Um, Yay! Y2 Viral is back. Awesome, dude. Um, we're gonna listen to it. We're gonna react to it. Yeah. So by the way, for people on Rumble, I do a combination of like different things. Because again, I'm totally new. You're new to me. Everyone else on YT and Twitch know what I do. But basically, I talk about wrestling. I break down wrestling. And I also want to incorporate new things like talking about like off-topic stuff like music and whatnot, like Nickelback and all that kind of stuff. Different topics that will not make it onto a wrestling podcast because I realized that over, the past very like half a year in a way, ever since WWE got bought out by TKO, WWE is starting to basically do a lot of their stuff in house and not really looking outward toward the influencers. Even though sometimes they'll include the influencers in like the hype videos and the reaction videos and stuff like that. But like I've noticed that they went more in house. So I'm like, well, I need to really diversify my portfolio and the things that I can do and the things that I could comment on and the things that I can analyze, and that's basically what I'm going to be doing and expanding. And I want to use Rumble and I want to use YT. And I'll use Twitch from time to time as well. But in the past, I do have this series called the Tape Study series, which is under the Ringology series, which, again, I might have to like rebrand. I don't know. But the Tape Study series is me watching professional wrestling matches and breaking it down. YouTube is not very fond of that. Hopefully, Rumble will be okay with it. But it's me pausing and stopping, reacting to it, and giving you guys like firsthand knowledge about like what's happening in the match, explaining why like moves are necessary, and explaining why you know a wrist lock is needed and the story inside the ring because these modern day wrestlers have forgotten the art of storytelling. The art of storytelling within the ring. And so basically that's what I do. It's tape study series. I basically talk about professional wrestling matches. I do want to go over I want to go over the Jelly Roll promo. I really do. And I want to go over the I guess a tag match that Jelly Roll had on SmackDown, but I can't find any clips of it. Um, yeah, so I have an analyze series. The only reason why it's not like, I have some in my back catalog on the Square Circle podcast itself. Um, the reason why like I really don't go 100% like really all in with it is because I do need the time. I do need more stuff for like equipment wise, streaming wise, in order to make that happen. And I also need food. um I know I say a lot of things like I need, but I really, really do. I do have a throne wish list and stuff that I will be updating. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Anonymous, who decided to buy me a kettlebell, which is great because I can start working out, and we can have those streams too if you want to. Um, or just watching me like just do some kettlebell action, like I don't know. And then also I know what the other secret gift is, and that's going to be a game changer for me. But yeah, I wish I could do it a lot more often. I have in the past critiqued wrestlers matches on Twitch live. And I've also did it behind the scenes as well. So I am available for coaching and stuff like that for professional wrestling, because professional wrestling is my life. It's everything. I love it. But you know, I also do understand that like if we want to talk about human beings and how humans are flawed. Humans have like, you know, ups and downs, a lot of baggage and stuff like that. Sometimes people who tend to, you know, want to lash out and be so rude and nasty and disrespectful are the ones that have the worst things in their closet, you know. But yeah, that's what I do. um Chris definitely says over here on the white tea of things that he is old school wrestling. I'm old school wrestling too. You know, you show me some technical moves, I will just love it. The WWF was the big dog, still the big dog, and they quit watching AEW. Um, my eye is itchy. NWA Wrestling is the vital alliance in the 1980s. Uh, I agree with you on that. These wrestlers nowadays are lazy when it comes to storylines. It is. And then I will be coming up with like there's the simplest things that they can do and utilize social media to their advantage in a kayfabe kind of way. And I still get harassment bots telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's like, bro, get out of here, man. If you're not willing to show your face, then like get out of here. Um, what do you call it? La, la, la. The NWA TNA WWE TNA pay tribute to Hulk Hogan. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Um, what did I want to say? By the way, if you want to look at a healthy partnership in wrestling, the WWE and TNA partnership is very, very, very healthy. And I think that, you know, this might be a hot take or maybe not a hot take, but I do feel like ever since they got rid of Scott Demore, and even though Scott Demore is a very creative, good person in the wrestling business, I do think that by firing Scott Demore and having um is this Silva? Is this Silva? I apologize if I fucked up his name. But having the new president there has done wonders for giving a new, fresh lift to TNA and also to the idea, the perspective of TNA and stuff like that. Um, TNA is not dead, Chris. WWE didn't bury TNA, and WWE has not bought TNA. WWE is helping out TNA, but there is no sources, like no news about WWE buying TNA. WWE is still allowing TNA to do what TNA does. The only reason why I can see why someone would say that TNA is dead only because NXT stars are holding TNA gold. But that's all part of the story, right? Like you build up the NXT guys to be the ultimate villains in this, and at the end it's gonna come crashing down, no pun intended about Hogan's theme song. um it's gonna come crashing down when the TNA guys basically get that edge, and go after them any means necessary to get those titles back. TNA now have the TNA wrestlers now have to really show their mean streak in order to compete with NXT stars, because obviously NXT stars are playing dirty. No matter how you want to, like, if you want to say like no they're not, or yes they are, or whatever, but I'm sorry, NXT stars are playing dirty. And TNA stars need to do that even if they're a babyface. They have to match the NXT guys and also outsmart the NXT guys in order to get their championship titles back. It's that simple. So yeah, WWE has not buried TNA at all. I do think that with the constant use of social media, they have definitely made TNA look a lot more better. Um, and just a lot of cool things. Um, cool. Um, but yes, I think that my headset is I think my headset is attached. Yeah, it is. Now I have to attach it here on. Oh, why is this like this? That's. Oh, it's over here. Of course. Um, okay. Um, let me let me grab it first. Okay, hold on. Before we that's not what I wanted. Oh, maybe that is what I wanted to do. Um, hmm. Now I'm just thinking. Um, yeah, I wanted to touch on Chelsea Green for just a tiny bit as I do this. I should have uh the unfortunate thing about Chelsea Green apologizing to the mob is that she cultivated that kind of mob where it is all the buzzwords, all the people who want to be victims, and the loudest of the loudest activists. And it's really sad and unfortunate because what Chelsea Green said in her first post about Hulk Hogan was very classy. It was very nice. It was very appreciative of what he's done, and we looked at what he's done for the business. She put a qualifier on it. Everybody was putting a qualifier on it, which is like, guys, stop putting qualifiers on stuff. Everybody has their worst day. Everybody is down on their luck. Like, it happens to everybody, except for invasion of privacy. Um, but Chelsea should have never apologized to the mob. And then to follow it up, that the mob continued to send her death threats and all this kind of stuff, where she had to leave social media for a little bit. It's like, first of all, don't bend the knee to them because they're really not going to support you. The moment that you say something out of line that they don't agree with is the moment that they own you. This is why I say that only you can allow your content to be taken over by other people who don't contribute to shit, who want to get online, who want to bitch and moan, and who want to definitely like be a victim like all day long. There is nothing wrong with saying that let's celebrate the victories that Hogan has given us in professional wrestling. Um, Without like anything else, because you want to celebrate the character that he had. Um you know it's just really stupid that people want to get in their feelings and people don't want to help out their communities, but they'll be the first people screaming like, they'll be the first people screaming about some stupid shit. It's like, you got to help your communities first, right? You got to help your communities first if you want to change the perspective. So that way, if people end up getting drunk and they say stuff out of pocket, that like, they don't have to say those things. They don't have to resort to those things. But if you're not living in that culture, you wouldn't understand. You'll just be getting upset for everybody else, and it's like, no, we got to stop doing that. For the years, it's like, I should say through the years. Through the years, it's so annoying. And by the way, the one particular comment that I kept seeing was that other people were trying to tell other people that we can't tell other people how to feel about this situation. Um, for the past 8 years, the other side, uh, the left, which I really don't. Again, I don't want to bring politics into this, but the other side for the past 8 years have been telling white people how to feel and thus creating white guilt. And yet, you don't want people to tell other people how to feel when you have been creating the white guilt so that way white people could feel guilty about nothing. It happened. It's bad. The world is not rainbows and sunshines. That's just you guys wanting to exert your power because that's what you want to do. That's just a byproduct of it. And it's like, you shouldn't have power and authority over other people the same way that like people on the daily don't have this against other people. And you might point to like one or two examples and whatnot, and that's cool, one or two examples, but is it happening on the daily? No. If it was, every single state in the United States will have some type of riot going on. We'll have some type of video footage going on every single day where it looks like a complete war zone, but it's not happening. So I would like people to stop making themselves victims. I would like people to start thinking about like, not using certain words anymore, especially the N word, because if you don't like it, if you don't like other people saying it, then don't say it. Be the example of like, hey, this has a really bad history, this has a really bad connotation, but for some reason it's like only one group can say it, and it's like, why? you know I also remember some name with numbers account was trying to bait me into saying the N word, and it's like, that's not the gotcha you guys think it is. It's really not the gotcha you think it is. For some reason I don't understand why they think that's a gotcha. I've said it, and I'm always gonna stand on it, that like I don't like the N word in any way, shape, or form, because it's very toxic, nasty. It has a really bad history. I also don't understand this need for always to try to hold people accountable for things, and it's like, are you holding yourself accountable too in the same light as like everybody else? No, you're not. You're just getting online, typing from your computer, typing from your phone, of like, I'm holding you accountable. Sir, you're a stranger online. I don't know who you are. And whatever you deem as bad, myself or somebody else that you're trying to hold accountable might not look at it the same way. There's this thing of like, on the internet, everything has to be everything has to be like the same. And it's like, no, nothing has to be the same. You might take offense to it, you might not like it, but that doesn't mean the other person sees it that way. And even if you explain to the other person your thought pattern on like why this situation needs to be held accountable, they're not going to see it that way. They don't have that same kind of thinking. They weren't brought up that way. Everybody was brought up differently in the environments that they happen to be in. And sometimes it's very what do you call it, unfortunate if people don't want to adapt, but what are you going to do? You can't force everything, but people have tried to force things, and it has worked over the past 8 years. But then again, like, Chelsea Green should have never apologized, should have never bent the knee, and if her fans don't like it, then uh it is what it is. It's really not complex. It's really not. The only reason why it may sound like it's complex, because If we truly use the words that we want to use and put things into perspective, somebody is going to come in here with an emotional essay telling me that I'm wrong, and when they look at me, they might call me a white girl when I'm like a Latina. I'm not like a Latina, I am a Latina. Damn words. But it's really not complex, man. It's the idea of that if you are knee deep in the culture and even you don't like what you see, whether that's the way that media presents you guys or whether that's like, baby mama drama or anything like that. If you are knee deep in the culture, you should understand that some people may have a particular preference just based on what they see and what they experience, and you may experience the same thing, but you don't want to really uh elevate the community because it's a prideful thing and you want everything to stay the same. But then if someone calls it out to bring a spotlight to it, to be like, this needs to change, they're suddenly the bad guy. When you have the power to change something within your community, nobody does it. So it's really not a complex situation. It's more about like, hey, our community is getting a bad rep in every single news outlet there is. They're not making us look good. We need to stop this. We need to slow this down. Um, you're always gonna have bad apples in your community. You're always gonna have the good, the bad, the ugly. But if you don't want to be a part of that anymore, to not get that stigma, to not get that, like, shadiness or whatever it is, you got to do something within the community first before getting upset at somebody else that's like just calling it out on what they experience, what they see. It shouldn't like tie us down to how we talk about things, how we try to find a solution, because when you talk about something, you ultimately find a solution. And for the most part, if you're like in a gated community, you're gonna have a different type of like culture and experience behind a gated community. If you are in like the Richie Rich area, you're gonna have a different type of culture and community. There's all different types of thoughts out there. There are all different types of people out there. But to try and really like always have this chokehold around white people, but never hold your own community accountable for having the N word circulate and having the perception circulate, then it's like, you know, two wrongs don't make a right, if that makes sense. Um, Hogan saying the N word once, um, going to court to get that fixed and everything, and then apologizing and saying, that wasn't him, he should have never said it. And then I don't understand this whole thing about him not changing. I don't know what people wanted to see whenever he was in the limelight. I don't know what you wanted to see as like change. If you were to ask somebody on Twitter or something, they're never going to give you an answer as to like, what kind of change did you want him to see? Did you want him to donate to a cause? Because not many people who are rappers end up donating to causes. Not many people who are rappers open up, new stuff in their community, basically basically help out their community once they become rappers, once they get their money, once they get their diamond teeth and diamond necklaces and cars and whatever. They don't go back to their community. They don't go back to the hood. Some of them do, but not all of them. So like, I don't understand why we have this one straight narrow-minded hate for Hulk Hogan, and like why and how people wanted him to change. Like, what kind of change did you want Hogan to bring about? I don't understand, man. Like, I don't understand why they wanted him in a constant like, I'm so sorry, this is a burden, I'm so sorry. And then even when he does say like he is sorry, nobody wants to accept it and move on. And then you wonder why people want to push back and want to be like, we got to remember Hogan for like bringing us together and bringing wrestling to mainstream and all this kind of shit. I know in the other live stream, I talked about how like other people were mentioning the whole union thing. And I don't really like unions. And I really don't think that having a wrestling union is a good idea because it's not really going to be helpful. I don't know how that's Hogan's fault. You know, I don't understand how when somebody has preferences, it's always their fault. And when they express their preferences, it's like nobody else can have preferences. It's like, no, that's totally wrong. And they think that someone having a preference might mean that this is what they believe, but no, preferences can change, opinions can change. Opinions and preferences are not facts. They're just someone's like way of thinking and stuff like that. But yeah, like I don't understand. I don't understand what they wanted from him. I really don't. Um, he's a guy like everybody else. Everybody else makes mistakes. It's not about like, oh my God, he should just be like, you know, remorseful for all these years and no one's gonna forgive him. Like, no. Everyone hits rock bottom. Everyone. Okay. But yes, Chelsea Green should have never apologized. Never. But again, when you cultivate a community that is all woke, that you can't say anything outside of what they want you to say. When you cultivate people that, you know, accept everything and anything, and that you can't push back, you can't try to have a decent conversation with them. When you cultivate those type of people, this is what happens. They basically own Chelsea Green, which is unfortunate. It really is. If you can't speak your mind, then what is the point of even saying stuff as a public figure to try not to upset people, you know? Um I had no idea that the Iron Sheik said it a lot. But see, it is a double standard. It's like, you know, anyone with like a tan skin color can say it. And it's like, what? Or maybe the Iron Sheik got away with it because like if you stepped up to him, he would have beat your ass. Um like I don't know. Um but I didn't know he said it. I know the Iron Sheik used like jabroni a lot, like, you know, oh, this guy's a jabroni, jabroni this, jabroni that. Um but uh you know what? There is this tweet that I probably do want to read because I do agree with it. And by the way, I don't really expect everyone across the board on like all the social media platforms to agree with me. You are never forced to agree with me if you ever think that, because I do get harassment bots and people thinking that people have to agree with me, and it's like, no, you don't have to agree with me. If you want to say something, keep it respectful, keep it conversational, don't get nasty. That's all I ask, right? Because you can have your difference of opinion, you can have your difference of your thoughts and whatnot, the same way that I can have my differences of thoughts. um but you don't have to agree with me. It's totally okay. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, this person didn't agree with me, oh my god, that's it. Why not, I'm a good person. Like, no, it's okay that you don't agree with me. It's okay. um there is a tweet on my timeline on my Twitter, at Marie_shadows, if you guys are interested, where I basically say that, well, I don't really say it. I just I screenshotted it, put it on my Twitter timeline to just preserve it, and it says, "Here is the thing: just because someone says something racist one time in their life does not mean someone hates you." Okay, I'm gonna say that again. Here is the thing: just because someone says something racist one time in their life does not mean someone hates you. No one knows you exist, in a way. Like, I could do content creation. You guys can see my face, hear my voice. I love each and every one of you guys that come by my community. But in a sense, Chris and Y2 Viral are not like living with me. Nightbot over here is not living with me. My community is not with me 24/7 in my household. You know what I mean? Like, um, you know, we could get to know each other online through interactions and whatnot, and we're cool. And you might have a sense of like who I am, but essentially you're not living with me, and that's the thing. Everybody online that was getting upset at Hogan and really being nasty, mean, and very just horrible to him, you weren't living with him to have that kind of energy, and you shouldn't be having that kind of energy for someone you don't know. Social media gives us glimpses of like what to get upset at, what not to get upset at. You know, buying the latest fashion, buying the latest trend. You know, be mad at this group. Oh, don't be mad at this group. Oh no, we're switching our thought process of this and that. The media controls, and the weak-minded people tend to stay the course. This is why, like, in 2025, we're really not as progressive as like we think we are, because if we were progressive, we wouldn't be this divided, and we wouldn't be this nasty towards a guy that you don't know, I don't know, but we only know him as Hulk Hogan and sometimes as Terry Bollea. But even then, you still don't know Terry. The tweet goes on to say, most likely they don't know you or care about you. If you're a good person and treat people well, people that know you will like you regardless of prejudice. Again, if you are a good person, that's all that should matter, is that if you are a good person, that's like the best thing that can happen. People will care. People will not like, you know, go against you and shit like that. The second follow-up tweet, and if they don't like, excuse me, and if they don't like you, why spend energy caring? That energy can be used to make your own life better or the lives of people you love. That's like the main thesis here of like, why are we spending so much energy on hate? Why? There's also another tweet too that I want to read out to you guys if I can find it. This is another tweet that I have on my timeline. Hogan epitomizes everything the left has conditioned us to hate. The fact that he was caught on camera using the N-word in 2007 and wasn't completely destroyed for it absolutely drives them nuts. It's a reminder of their fledgling punitive power, which is true. I was talking about power. They all want to have power over us, but also scream racism when someone gets out of line. And it's like, the definition of racism is when you think that you're better than like somebody else or a group of people. And what has been happening over the past years? That exact same thing. While other people are like, yo, I just want to live my life. I just want to go to work, make some money, make some content, make people smile, let people know that like if they're having a shit day, it's going to be okay. But, you know, the moment that you step out of line is the moment that they feel kind of inferior. So they have to use the excess energy and power to have over you, to control you. And again, that's the definition of racism. So who's really being racist or having racism like within themselves? If you just want to focus on being a good person, focus on being a good person. If you want to focus on like, you know, having good deeds, just have good deeds. Just go about your life in a normal way, getting up, getting into the routine, working, being there for family and friends, picking up the phone, calling whoever to be like, hey, what's up? Oh, you had a bad day? It's going to get better, you know? But this is what happens. The tweet goes on to say, the fact that he drew more money than anyone in pro wrestling and fiercely protected how his character was portrayed so as to remain on top for decades drives them nuts too. I guess there's some truth to that. A lot of younger talent that never worked with him felt he held them down in backstage politics. This is a toss up. That it wasn't fair that he was always on top. However, if you listen to the guys of his era, the guys he actually worked with, you hear almost universal praise for Hogan. This is true. His drawing power made them all more money. Everyone wanted to work with him because it meant more money, which means protecting the Hogan character protected their earning potential too. There are certainly left/right economic parallels here as well, which is true. Also, if we want to talk about it, Hogan was in movies. He brought along like Undertaker. He brought along other wrestlers too. Whenever he did movies, so like it doesn't make any sense. Hogan was the face of WrestleMania. He worked with Mr. T. He worked with everybody else. He had specific people in his contract when he went over to WCW to just help them out. You can't help everybody out. You help out the friends that are going to be loyal and by your side. Hogan was definitely loyal to a fault. And also to recognize that he said something bad. Is that not worthy of him holding himself accountable for it? That is worthy of it. He held himself accountable in 2007. I'm going to say this for more emphasis because the picture needs to be there. In 2007, he held himself accountable for what he said. Is that not an apology enough? Does that not go into the apology category where he knew he fucked up even though like he got recorded against his will? His privacy was, no longer there because it was a breach of his privacy to be recorded on video camera, right? So once he realized this, and once he got the court stuff situated and won the court case, and then went on national television to apologize, he automatically took accountability for what he said in 2007. But for some reason, we want to bring it up, still have this energy, still want to play the performative kind of deal. And it's like, wow, you guys want to hold him accountable to feel superior than him when he already beat himself up over the fact he said that shit and it got recorded without his knowledge, but he acknowledged the fact that it got recorded. He said that, and he said it wasn't him, and he was sorry for it. And then also to say that he to not get caught, which is true. Like, don't get caught, because you think that some people will have your back and they don't have your back and they throw you under the bus and they become snakes and whatnot. And sometimes you have to have your head on a swivel. Mistakes happen. Accidents happen. People betray you. People, stab you in the back with a knife. Metaphorically, because YouTube is mad weird. But yeah, like nobody took the time to really say to themselves, Hogan took accountability first before the whole mob over the past couple of days came and be like, oh, threw all their nastiness at him. And we're not even going to get into the fact that, Hogan had a very hype, nice speech at Trump's rally. Like, we're not even going to get into that because that's very stupid that people think that the other side thinks it's a win. It's not a win. Like, damn. You guys like scraps rather than like the whole meal. But yeah, it's really sad that people who are quick to anger, people who are quick to give you an emotional essay, people who are quick to give you harassment bots and burner accounts will not stop and think about, oh shit, Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea held himself accountable for the things that he said ahead of everything else because he knew that it was wrong to say. And even though he was in his lowest of the lowest, but he acknowledged that he should have never said it. And when people themselves acknowledge it before the mob comes in to force you to acknowledge it, that should be like automatic. Okay, he got a good head on his shoulders. He understood what he said was wrong and he apologized and he's beating himself up for it. Let's move on. Let's forgive him. Let's move on. Right? And if you don't agree with that, let me know in a comment. Let me know, like, since we're live in the live chat, you know. Y2 Viral does say Hogan also asked for a raise for Kamala as well. So yeah, if I'm wrong in thinking that and coming to that conclusion, and if you guys still have that bad energy, that nasty energy, like, you know, well, leave that stuff at the door. But you know, if you don't agree with me, let me know. To end the tweet, the person says, and in Hogan's character being patriotic and nationalistic, wholesome, religious, he was basically the anti-left character of the 80s. It is okay to still have values. It is okay to still, you know, have certain traits of what makes somebody good, wholesome, you know, simple common sense stuff. There's no reason to completely throw the book out the window. When people want to preach, oh, we lost our decency, we lost our, you know, humanity and blah blah blah. Oh, woe is me, guys. Oh my god, woe is me. We no longer have decency, guys. And it's like, you guys go out every single day to try to yell at people, to try to force people. Who's truly the side in the wrestling community and all over the world that don't have the decency that they claim that they want to have? Like, you know. Anyway, um it just sucks. But yes, it's just that it's really sad that people will celebrate somebody's death without any of the nuances, without realizing that he was a human being too, and that they're a human being as well, and that life is way too short. You know, life is 100% way too short for stupid shit. Um, okay, hold on. There is my mini rant, okay? My mini rant. Can I not? No, I cannot. So I guess I'm gonna have to take this out. Um, how did I do this before? I'm telling you, man, I have not streamed it in such a long time that I'm like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Um, by the way, if you guys are enjoying the conversation and enjoying what I have to say, hit that like button on YouTube and then also on Rumble as well. Send over some questions, some comments. I know it's Sunday, it's like 2 in the afternoon, and I don't really know if my crew will be able to join me, but yeah. See, I don't know if I oh, there we go. That's what it was. I was okay. Got it. 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 Let me just move this out of the way. Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that I could change my messages on Rumble to just Rumble. because I don't have locos. Like I did have locos, which if you guys don't know, locos is similar to like Patreon and Fourth Wall and whatnot. Like I did have it, but I'm like I have no idea how to use it. I don't know what I would use it for. That's the thing. Whenever I get something like this, it's like I don't know what to use it for. Because I don't know if everybody would like jump on it and basically um what do you call it, like join and whatnot. I am like freaking hungry too, but I guess I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna go get some water, and I'll be right back, and we'll listen to this. I'll comment on it. But again, hit that like button on Rumble. Give me a follow on Rumble too. I'm trying to grow. Again, this is the first time I'm ever using Rumble, YouTube. I'm so sorry if that upsets you if I say the word over and over. But if you're over on YouTube, hit that like button as well. Share it out. Get more people in here, and basically, yeah, hit that follow button as well. But yeah, let me go get some water. I'll be right back. Enjoy the background. All right, I'm back.
Recording. Big news happened, so I knew today would be a very interesting show.
Well, and we can't do anything else but lead with this because of the magnitude of the situation, which had been rumored for some time and had been shot down. But yesterday, as we sit here and talk, Hulk Hogan passed away. They said cardiac arrest. He was at his home. He was 71 years old, and and I know a lot of people were instantly tweeting at it. Why aren't you talking about this? It's been not even 24 hours, I don't believe, since the news came out. And when I heard about it a few hours later, I had a face full of Novocaine from sitting in a dentist chair. So we have tried to regroup and think about this as best we can. So we don't need to be the news breakers. We are commentators, and we'll try to analyze things a little bit for the good and the bad. But, you know, it surprised me the level of vehemence for the people who had the negative opinion of Hulk Hogan. I figured it would be like, well, when the big star dies or celebrity, a sports figure, even if he was controversial, everybody, kind of goes with it. But is it just social media, Brian, or for the people who loved him or were fans, they were broken up. And for the people who didn't, they weren't. Is it just Twitter? I haven't talked to anybody personally about it, but what the fuck?
I don't think it's just Twitter. I think
Wonderful. Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said, man. I was surprised too. We were all surprised of like everybody. Well, I don't want to say everybody, but the majority of people that were nasty, um, you know, celebrating for no reason.
Twitter certainly magnifies everything a whole lot more, but it's a complicated legacy. There's the legacy and the life of Hulk Hogan, the character.
It's not complicated. It's really not. Um, I will stand by it that it's not complicated. I gave Well, I know I'm not trying to go at them. I'm not trying to be like really really defensive. It may sound like it, but I'm not. But I'm just like, it's really not complicated, and this is why sometimes like if we're going to be talking about this, it has to be like 100% um like you can use the words, you can, say your experiences and stuff like that, but it really does like have to deal with what I said in my previous Discord notes about like being from the hood and the culture and whatnot, and that those communities need to basically fix their perception, but they want to get angry at the outside sources before anything else. And if you're not part of that culture, if you're not part of that hood culture, you're not going to understand why it is. And then you're going to qualify this as it being complicated when it's not being complicated. Um,
And then there's Terry Bollea, the person who played the character of Hulk Hogan. And, it's certainly a legacy that's taken a lot of hits, a lot of them self induced over the last 20 years. But a lot of the reaction I saw, and I know a lot of what I was feeling because, we've had a lot of fun on this show talking about, laughing about the various stories that he would concoct or the things that he would say in these interviews. And of course, there's the infamous tape of him having sex with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife, and then the declarations that he made about himself being a racist afterwards. There's all these things, and there's also at the same time this guy that for a lot of people was the entry to pro wrestling. I became a big fan in '89, and I already knew who a lot of the guys were because of Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling when I was 6, because of the figures that got to the stores when I was 5. I had a Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant action figure before I ever saw them, before I really knew too much about them. And I think for a lot of people, especially my generation, my age group, Hulk Hogan was not only the biggest star of a generation and the face of WWF, but he may be the actual reason you first became aware of wrestlers or wrestling. And I think for a lot of people, the people who still get chills thinking about the Andre the Giant body slam at WrestleMania 3 in '87, the people who still remember the big Saturday night's main events and all the big moments, even the WrestleMania match with The Rock, what a special series of moments that was. It's a tough thing to weigh all of those positive memories and experiences with the conduct, the words.
it's not tough. It really isn't. A couple of things should not define and outweigh the positives. It really shouldn't. Um, it really should not. Um, it just really shouldn't. Because then, if that's the case, everything throughout life is gonna have to be looked at that through that lens, no matter what. Um, you can have all the positives in the world, But just because we are tainted by the most horrible thing in the world, that is the one thing that we should always go back to? No. If we want a society to move on, if we want a society to get better, you acknowledge the bad stuff that happens. You acknowledge the flaws, but then you look to the future of like, okay, these are all the positives they're laying out, but you look to the future to make improvements so that way you don't repeat the past. And after 2007, what has Hogan really truly repeated again and again and again? He might make up some stories and you'll just be like, you'll just brush it off because they're made up stories. If you were there or not, somebody online was brought up the fact that there was a black girl that was hired for the real American beer, and then all of a sudden a situation happened and then she got fired, and she did a video, got the attention that she wanted, and blamed Hogan for it. And it's like, do you not see what's happening here? A celebrity gets blamed for something that they may have no effect for, but to be like, oh, the horrible stuff that he did outweighs all the positives, then, let's just do that for everyday life, and you can't do that. There's a lot more positives than negatives, and like I said earlier, that he already acknowledged that he did something wrong. He already acknowledged that it was wrong what he said, but we're still going to hold it against him. The same way that we acknowledge all the bad things that happen in America and in the history books, but we still want to acknowledge it, use it as a weapon, and make sure that people remain as sheep and people remain as dumb, and they're not going to take it upon themselves to do research and ask questions and go out and find the people in these specific situations and be like, tell me about this and tell me about your experience. This is a way to keep people dumb and angry and repeated a cycle when everybody screams at the top of their lungs, we got to break the cycle. We got to break the generational curse. But what does the media do? You do one bad thing, that is the end of your career. You do one bad thing, get proven that it was all accusations and it was all made up and it wasn't real. What happens? Your whole career is done. So how can we truly be progressive? How can we truly understand things if all we're going to do is just be like, oh, you did a bad thing, put a rubber stamp on it and be like, oh, well, you got to figure it out now. Again, I'm trying really not to go against them because I want to hear them out, but this is why you need to have somebody else on the panel, just to give this different perspective, because it's really not fair to hold anybody truly, if we're gonna go across the board, it's really truly not cool to hold somebody accountable for one wrong thing. Because again, nobody, for all the threads that I've been in, and this, it really does affect you when you're reading so many nasty shit. It really does affect you in some way, because it's like, you guys scream about being nice, being tolerant, being acceptance, and this is across the board. This isn't singling out the left, right, whatever the fuck. It's not singling out parties. It's singling out the ideology of, you got to be kind, you got to have empathy, you got to have compassion, you got to you got to be there for your fellow person. You got to drop everything and go along with them. You have to be tolerant. But nobody was tolerant for someone dying. Nobody was. They will scream that out the top of their lungs. They will force you to believe in it, but nobody practiced it for over the couple of days. Yo, Bubba Matt, what's up, man? Welcome to the YouTube stream. I thought you were gonna go over to the Rumble stream, man. But yes, it is selective outrage. I've said that before too, and I hate it. I guess you and I are gonna be talking about it no matter what. No matter what. But yes, It is selective outrage. I do agree with that. Again, welcome to the stream. But yeah, like I was saying that nobody was practicing what they preach, but they want to hold people accountable. This is why like it doesn't make any sense. Let me continue because it is an hour long, but this is why they need somebody on Jim Cornette's show. Yeah, this is why they need somebody else just to have this different perspective and not meant to like start an argument, but just to present it a different way. Yes, I have Rumble. I don't know how to use it. So today is like the first day of using Rumble. So yeah, I just started. I didn't understand how to use Rumble, and I was like, fuck it. Let's do it today. But either way, it doesn't matter. You're here. Let's let's continue.
You know, again, and it wasn't just the
The
Bubba thing.
meltdown.
Yeah, I mean, remember, you know, when his son Nick got into that accident, and forgive me for not knowing all the details, the person riding with him was a vegetable pretty much from that point forward. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a big issue.
Yeah.
Then there was a tape of like Hulk Hogan going to the prison and, you know, basically making themselves the victims, not the victim.
Well,
so I mean, there's a lot of things like that, but again, you know, it's hard. You know, there aren't a lot of examples. He wasn't a murderer like OJ, so you can't really say like, you know, look at when OJ died. But it's hard. I think a lot of the mainstream stuff I've seen is kind of focused on. I don't want to necessarily say the positives, but the realities of the magnitude of his star. But everyone does address the scandals. I mean, he brought down Gawker with that lawsuit that Peter Thiel funded. So it's not like he wasn't always in the middle of stuff, but it's a complicated legacy to kind of weigh.
It's not
He
complicated.
learned very well in the wrestling business, the old fashioned wrestling business, of how to promote himself, make himself bigger, make himself more important in the days when you couldn't just readily poo-poo a bullshit story and didn't realize he had done so much mainstream publicity where the host or the interviewer or the people involved had almost no knowledge of the inside of the business or even the business in general, that he could just say shit, and he got used to that. And then it came back to bite him as far as the stories that we've made fun.
Hold on. I need to put this into a reality perspective. Hold on. Because because when you're born and you grow up and you're in certain environments and you're around certain people, it does not matter if you are in the wrestling business and you learn how to like bullshit your way. You learn that you could just say whatever you want. We're doing this on the daily. People say whatever they want. People say out of pocket things. And you know, that's not just for wrestlers. um that's not just for wrestlers. Like I've said, you know, some out of pocket things to people and people didn't like it and they got upset. But this is the real world. You know, I'm talking to people in the real world, and sometimes my comments were more like snappy, very like unfiltered, straight to the point, kind of deal. Like, you know, you don't have to be in the wrestling business to like say shit that people don't want to hear the truth about. Yeah, so it's not it's not just the wrestling business. You grow up saying shit that you don't mean. You grow up saying stuff like, you know, like I said, out of pocket stuff. You don't think like cameras are around or phones are around or whatever the hell, because, you know, in this day and age, everybody is recording something. So, you know, you just say stuff because you're comfortable. And Hogan was comfortable. Everybody is comfortable. If you're a human being, you're comfortable and you're talking. Like my freaking nose is getting stuffed. Sinuses, man. But like it doesn't, it has nothing to do with the fact that he's a wrestler. Nothing to do with it. Because even like ordinary people say stuff without knowing.
Fun of it, etc. And the books that he wrote that easily, you know, disprovable, but to the kid that was a fan in those days and then didn't know anything about wrestling for 20 years, he buys Hulk Hogan's book and he buys the whole thing. But there's also a third segment. You talked about the people who, who loved him and were introduced to wrestling, the fans and or the, people on the other side. As controversial as he was, and as many people as he had been involved in at least somewhat double crossing or, creative controlling or maneuvering or whatever, you saw from a lot of people in the business they loved him. There were people that loved him in the business as well as people who were like, Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example because I thought about this. Scott Dickinson, one of the real nice guys out there, former WCW referee, refereed a lot of places,
Yes.
but most
Yes.
famously WCW. Years ago, I forget what you and I were talking about, but we were probably laughing about one of Hogan's things. And he got in touch and he told me a story, and I was shocked to hear it. And I don't know if shock's the right word, but I was really pleasantly surprised. I don't know what. He said that when Brian Hildebrand, referee Mark Curtis in WCW, got sick, when they found out, I guess maybe the first time, or whenever it was, when they found out that the cancer was really bad,
Yeah.
somehow word got to Hogan. And he said that they were surprised when all of a sudden Hogan approached Brian Hildebrand and said, "Is there anything I could do?" And I think he even did try to get him in with some doctors or something. That's a story that we didn't hear from Hulk Hogan. So it's not like it's a tale that he just made up. It's something I'm hearing from a friend of Brian Hildebrand's.
Well, that's the thing that I always said about the stories that he was telling is that his real ones were good enough. He was the big mega sensation in the wrestling business. And there's so many, ways you could have told those stories and not been completely full of shit, and Metallica didn't need to be involved or whatever. Because the real stuff, he had something to work with. But that's why, very complicated. And I know I've even had people on Twitter the last day say, "Oh, I can't wait to hear Cornette and Last roast Hogan now that he's gone." I'm like, have we ever been personally mad at each other? You and I and him. We laughed at the bullshit, but he was a big deal in the wrestling business. Now, I wasn't a fan of him being a big deal in the wrestling business while he was a big deal in the wrestling business.
What?
Because I was on the other side.
Oh.
And it's no secret I was not a fan of the Vince Jr.'s WWF ideas for the 80s with the kiddie program and etc. because we were in the NWA and that was wrestling. And, so it was not my cup of tea. I was on the southern side while they were on the northern side. But the thing actually, I don't think people realize, and I've said it before, that I would say that I have probably been in, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this
Yeah,
properly.
just say it, dude. Just say
I've
it.
been in the same room with Hulk Hogan in my life like 8 fucking times, maybe.
Okay.
So I had no positive or negative personal interaction with him ever. I think 5 or 6 of those were when I was the photographer in Memphis and he was here in 1979. I took the
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it right there just for a quick interjection. So you see how Jim says that he could count on one hand or maybe like two hands about how many times he's been with Hogan and stuff like that and worked with Hogan and whatnot. It proved my point earlier about when I was reading the tweet where it says that Hogan probably doesn't know who you are in a way, right? Like, and I also mentioned how like nobody was with Hogan like 24/7. Those people that were really upset and being very nasty towards Hogan, none of them lived with Hogan. So they really should not have some type of really angry opinion about this. Because he probably wasn't talking about you. Um, if you feel like that meant like what he said, even though he acknowledged what he said was bad, if you feel like that was describing you, we've talked about, well, not we, but like in general in the in our lifetime, we mentioned that, like, you know, maybe it is about you if you have to make it about you, but it really wasn't about you, but everybody wanted to be nasty and make it about them and be like me, oh woe is me, when it's like you never had to live with him for a week to, you know, get to that conclusion. You just did it because the media, you know, this is how the media framed it, this is how people talk about it, this is how people in the shoot interviews talk about it and stuff like that. But if you were just as honest as Jim Cornette, you know, everything would have been fine. And when I say honest, to be like, oh, well, you know, you never really interacted with Hogan like that. You only saw what the media told you to saw and what you got upset about. Um, if you were that honest, that would have been great. But like for Jim to say that he's only like worked with Hogan like 8 times, in a way, you know, that's him being honest. So he doesn't really have a good or bad experience with him. And just because someone says something doesn't mean that that is who they truly are, because people can say a lot of words, and if all they're gonna do is say a lot of words, and by the way, how many shit talkers do we have going across all platforms of social media? How many shit talkers hide behind their phone or laptop? And we know what a shit talker is, right? However, actions are a lot more louder than the shit talkers, because the shit talkers are never going to do what they say they're going to do. So, again, how? Why? Why do we have all this stupid energy towards Hogan?
Pictures. Then once was at the NAPTE convention, the National Association of Television Program Executives in New Orleans, I believe, in 1991. And we passed greetings as he was at a booth and I was at a booth.
Oh, that's cute.
And that may be the last time ever.
Man.
So the point is, I'm not going to crow about it. I finally got what was coming to him. Because I barely ever met the fucking guy. But you were a fan as a kid. I was not a fan as a kid because I'm older. I was a kid before he was in the business and a fan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we have always acknowledged the magnitude of the money that he drew. And the fact that, remember, I said, when we were talking about Flair, I said we were talking about the #1 box office attraction of the year every year in the 90s or in the 80s. I said, well, it would have been Flair if it hadn't been for Hulk. It would have been Flair if it hadn't been for Hulk. You know, like 7 years in a row or whatever. And I don't know what between, there's differences between being the biggest box office attraction and the biggest mainstream star. And sometimes you might be able to be both at the same time. But as in terms of biggest box office attraction in wrestling, besides, nobody's ever going to top Jim Londos because that was a completely different generation and everything was different. But since then, who would have been, for a short period of time, Austin and Rock drew more money, but a much shorter period of time.
Locally, Bruno was obviously the biggest thing ever, but we're talking about someone who on a national stage, you know, with some ebb and flow at a certain point in the early 90s, but for 20 years was the biggest drawing card and the most recognizable pro wrestler in the world.
Well, and even Gorgeous George, while he at one point, the name Gorgeous George, then the image of the blonde guy Gorgeous George, because of the early network TV, more people may have known who he was at a period of time in this country, but he didn't draw the money and it didn't last nearly as long. And I mean, don't let anybody say Cornette said Gorgeous George didn't draw money, but he flopped in New York. But I'm talking about Gorgeous George more became a celebrity because Bob Hope and everybody on television was also talking about him. And it was in Hollywood where they all saw him, and it was all over TV in Los Angeles, as we've talked about.
And it was the early days of TV. There were only a few channels, and
Yeah.
wrestling was one of the most watched things on American TV at that time.
So as far as at the gate, and take Londos, and Londos was a bigger mainstream star because people had to read the fucking newspaper every day. There was no television or whatever. But take him out of it, and it's got to be Hogan. And Bill Longson was a big draw in the 40s when everybody else was in the army. So that's why I think it for a lot of people, it's been kind of sad. The ones that really liked him and were fans, or probably even the guys that liked him, his friends in the business, probably at some point were rolling their eyes at all the things he was getting into that were, it's ended up like it has, where there's memes of Hogan walking through the pearly gates and there's God and he's black. And it's like, what? Jesus, that's
Wow.
harsh for a guy who never actually fucking went to jail for fucking anybody up or anything.
It's the
Yeah.
fact that he said on the tape that, we're all racist, or I'm a racist to a point. Whatever he said, it was a declaration that he never walked back completely. I mean, when he made the big apology to the WWE locker room, and again, a lot of wrestlers.
Well, he did. It wasn't an apology. It was a warning. Don't get caught saying stupid shit.
Be careful on social media was like his message.
Don't let them know what you really think.
So, I mean, that's where, people really lose it for Hogan.
Okay, I'm gonna have to interject again because we're missing the national news apology that he did before he decided to give an apology to the locker room. So you have to put yourself in Hogan's shoes, right? Don't take that any other way. Don't be a jackass, don't twist those words. But you have to look at it this way, right? Everybody watches the news, right? So he did his interview. He said that wasn't him. He apologized. He knew that it was the wrong thing to say, right? So he already acknowledged it. Now he's thinking that everybody saw the news spot. I guess not. And I guess people were expecting him to re-apologize in the back. But Hogan was probably thinking that because he already said what he needed to say on national television, it would have gotten back to like everybody, including the boys, because he probably thinks that everybody watches the news. And then when he got to the locker room, that's when he said what he said. And people can look at that as him doubling down, but you also have to have that nuance of like, hey, he probably thought everybody was watching the news because he didn't think twice about it. Just because of like the environment that he grew up, how he grew up, during the era that he grew up, that everybody was watching the news, everyone was on, saw something on the television, heard something on the radio. So he thought that his message would have gotten back to people that way. And then I guess that caused him not to really give an apology to the boys. Is it right? No. Is it wrong? No. That was probably his way of thinking of why it went down that way. But then again, like you guys have to understand that in the eras of growing up and the perceptions, sometimes people just leave a bad taste in your mouth. Get your mind out of the gutter. Sometimes people will just do things, have actions that you do not approve of. And sometimes, that could be a little like headbutting against them because you're like, that's not how you were raised. You were raised with manners and like opening the door and treating women right. But then again, you see that your daughter is dating somebody that doesn't have those same values, and that's a preference. So sometimes experiences can make it seem as if like, you're against somebody, but it's like you want the best for the people that you love around you. This is what I don't understand. And some of the threads that I went through, even some people were saying that they don't want their son or daughter dating people who are in the hood. Okay, they have acknowledged that is their preference. Now, are you guys going to use the same energy that you used for Hogan to go and cancel those people in those threads that really did say that, you know, they wouldn't want that for their daughter? You guys have to understand that, like, experiences changes people's way of thinking, and through that, people could say the wrong things, it could come out the wrong way, but the fact remains is that their experiences changes everything. Again, there is no right, there is no wrong. This is just a perspective that people need to understand. That doesn't mean that because he was doubling down on it, that's what he truly meant and felt. You have to understand that he probably doubled down because he probably thought that everybody across the world saw the interview on the news station and was like, okay, first one down, done, we're good, and that's it. But to hold it against him, you know, because you didn't think about that, it's kind of stupid.
There are a lot of fans out there who really, really grew to dislike him because they grew up feeling the opposite way. And then all of a sudden there's a secret video of him.
Hold on. That is not Hogan's fault. If you decide to feel a different way because of somebody, that's not somebody's fault. Like, why are you putting that on somebody? The same way of like, okay, how can I put this into a different perspective? Because it is not right to blame Hogan that way, because Hogan has no control over what people feel, and Hogan has no control over how people get offended, and Hogan has no control over somebody that he doesn't know that will act out this way. It's the same way of like, you know, people getting offended over the word retarded. When in the hood it's slang for stupid, but people want to make it seem as if like it's a slur, and it's not a slur. The same way that, like, if I say that I like pork chops more than like chicken legs, someone's gonna get offended by that. And if I'm like, yo, pork chops are the best, hands down, no matter what, they're gonna get offended by that. You cannot control how someone feels or reacts because they feel like they got slighted. You know, if they get disappointed, they get disappointed. That's something different. But if you get offended over something where you could just easily ask questions, where you can easily research, where you can easily like do something proactive, right? That like that would be very beneficial for you. If fans got turned off by what he said and it grew from there, that's a them problem. That's their problem. That's not Hogan's problem. Now, sometimes you can, like, you know, when Hogan was alive and you were to explain to him like, hey, you know, it really did rub us the wrong way because of X, Y, and Z, you can do that. A friend of mine did that to make him understand, like, hey, this is why, you know, it rubbed off the wrong kind of way because, you know, again, everything's about perception. Again, sometimes if someone says something, it might come out the wrong way. And then you have to be like, okay, I could see why. And some person might be like, oh, well, Maria over here is being contradictory and like hypocrisy and blah, blah, blah. No, they're like, because I'm not focusing on a particular situation, it might come off that way, but like this has to be talked about in this kind of way. It is not Hogan's fault that people felt the way that they felt. If you weren't going to sit down and really look at everything that has happened, right? And how it happened and the timeline of how it happened, then, you know, that's on you. Hogan did all the necessary steps to try to get back into the good graces. But because people felt like he doubled down when they didn't want to go back and see the timeline of the events, that's on them. Hogan did what he needed to do. He felt like he did all he can do and felt that there was just a stubbornness there. And nobody had the right idea to be like, let's talk about this because there might be some miscommunication in this exact situation right now. Nobody wanted to do that. So it just got left alone, got festered, and it got bottled up. And then when, unfortunately, Hogan passed, everybody came out being nasty. Rather than going back and looking at the timeline and being like, okay, he made the apology nationwide on the news station. And I guess in his mind, he did not feel like he needed to repeat himself again, because he looks like the type and probably felt like the type of like not wanting to repeat himself again. So that also plays into his type of personality and what kind of man that he is. So when he went to the backstage of the wrestlers to give an apology, he probably felt like he didn't have to repeat himself. And I guess Vince wasn't like, oh yeah, I think that you should reiterate your apology, because again, different ways of thinking. The fact that the locker room and especially New Day held it against Hogan was completely wrong if you're not gonna actually sit down and try to get into his mind and like the era that he grew up in and what the hell happened.
Throwing the N-word around, saying things about his daughter dating an African American, and then declaring himself a racist while cheating on his wife or whatever it was with the guy's wife who was filming. I mean, the whole
well,
thing
come on
was
now.
so...
To be fair, with what we've learned about his wife afterwards, wouldn't you been trying to fucking find another goddamn country to live in or
Well,
something?
the point is, it was all out there, and Hogan, I don't know how big things would have been. Let me rephrase that in English, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if an
Hey, Maddie, what's up?
apology, a genuine, heartfelt one, would have changed everyone's opinion, but it would have gone a long way, especially amongst people in the wrestling business. You know, because that's the other thing you started seeing was a lot of, like, let's say, the contemporary WWE wrestlers.
Happy Sunday.
AEW. Remember, AEW banned Linda Hogan. And it wasn't like the people there weren't thinking, Hogan, Hulk Hogan too. You know, they got to a point where the modern generation of wrestlers was offended by him being around.
Well, that's why I mentioned I would have to think that a lot of the guys from his generation that were friends and liked him were rolling their eyes and like, please, Hulkster, give us something to work with, you know, every once in a while, and don't get in some of these deals.
But you mentioned the 80s before and Ric Flair. To me, it's like those are the leaders of that generation, and we just lost one. And again, they've all had a fall from grace in one form or another. But when you look at Hogan, Flair, and Vince, like to me, those are the three monumental figures.
Jesus Christ! Now that you just said that, I'm sorry, but now that you have just said that, and we see 40 years ago, if you had said, "Well, here's what's going to happen to these three,"
yeah, you
would have fucking put you in a rubber room, and it's happened.
Yeah. Now you brought up before, you've only been in a room with Hogan a few times. I'm guessing the first time you were was maybe the most impactful. Did you take his very first promo photos?
I wouldn't. I know I can't. I took the very first ones and probably the only ones that were taken in the Memphis territory. But now, here's the thing: they broke him in Florida, as everybody knows. We're not going to. I'm sure you can find another podcast to give you chapter and verse, but we're trying to make this somewhat first-person accounts. They broke him in Florida and in '78, and he worked under a mask down there. So I don't technically know if he'd had any pictures taken of him barefaced because he was the super destroyer or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So then they booked him in Alabama. Louis Tillett was the booker at that point in time. And was it Continental?
Not yet.
It wasn't even Continental yet. It was still Southeastern.
It was Southeastern, and it was just when they had opened up the Alabama end because it was in Knoxville, and then Ron Fuller opened up the second part of the territory.
And so it used to be the old Gulf Coast territory and the fields and etc. But nevertheless, because it was next door to Florida, so they booked him over there. And about 6 weeks later, is when Jared booked him up here. Well, and see, here's the thing. At that point in time, in April, May of 1979, Robert Fuller was still booking Memphis for Jarrett. And he used a lot of the Knoxville crew because it was the other end of the state. But since Knoxville was affiliated with Continental, they heard about this big blonde guy they had down there in Pensacola and said, well, let's bring him up because Lawler was doing a deal. Mongolian Stomper was the Southern heavyweight champion. Lawler was working with him. Gorgeous George Jr. was the Stomper's manager. And so Lawler brings in a mystery wrestler into the Mid-South Coliseum to face the Mongolian Stomper for the title. And it turns out to be Terry Boulder, Terry the Hulk Boulder.
Wow.
And then the next week was a tag team match with Lawler and Hulk against Stomper and Gorgeous George Jr. And they brought him to Louisville, I believe, at the same time for a week or two. And then he went back down to Continental. But I had gotten a couple of pictures of him then as the Lawler tag team. And then he came back about 6 weeks later. That's when they brought him in with, well, at that time he was Eddie Boulder because they were supposed the Boulder brothers. But it was Dizzy Hogan, Ed Leslie, et cetera, Brutus Beefcake. And then they were here for a couple months, and I got some more photos there. So most of the pictures that I've seen actually pose stuff rather than in the ring in Knoxville, Southeastern, or Continental, or Southeastern down in Alabama is my stuff. The blue background especially. I think there's a red background, but those are stuff that I did.
What do you remember about him at that point? Obviously, you're just a photographer, and
absolutely nothing. I'm the photographer. He's a big fucking new guy that is photogenic as fuck. So I said, hey, let's get some pictures, and he does the poses. And this is literally on the way to the ring because that's the way I set my shit up so I could catch the guys. They're upstairs getting warmed up. Hey, let's get some pictures. Ding, ding, ding. Off they go. So I didn't have anything to pass the day with him about, right? And he's brand new, doesn't know anybody. So he's got the photographers taking some pictures of him. And boom, and that was that.
So you had seen already Superstar Billy Graham, and you had seen Austin Idol. Two guys who directly influenced Hulk Hogan. Billy Graham influenced everyone, but he stole so much from Austin Idol. He's admitted it, too, from when they worked together in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He stole so much from Austin Idol. But you had seen them already, and the fans in Memphis had.
Well, now, hold on. I hadn't seen Graham yet. Graham came in at the end of 79. But obviously, we were cognizant of Graham. But go ahead.
But you had seen Rocky John. You had seen guys with good physiques there before. How did the fans take to Hogan, just in terms of the look? Because beyond the eventual promo ability, which wasn't there at all yet, beyond the eventual charisma, which may have been barely there yet, it was the look. It was, forget about the shaved belly hair and everything going on.
With the mushroom cloud.
Forget about that even. Just the muscles, the look, the beginning of the steroid era for wrestling, where it went from occasionally some guys did it to just about everyone's going to be doing it. How did he stand out in 79 amongst those fans?
Well, and also you remember the video that they did where
Michael St. John.
There's like Michael St. John from Nashville did the voiceover of the camera shoots the wrestling boots, and then there's I can't do the voiceover from memory from 50 years ago, but he stands 6'7", he weighs 325 pounds, whatever, and the camera pans up and he's in bodybuilding pose lighting, right? Where it's black behind him and the spotlight's on him, and the camera goes all the way up and he hits the fucking Hulk poses and everything. The Hulk is coming. And that was enough to get people's attention. And when they brought him in as Lawler's partner, okay, look at the fuck that was the, reaction from the people. And they put those matches in the main event and they got over with the people that were there. But as you will recall, that was a period of time where, as I mentioned, Robert Fuller was booking, and I gotta be Memphis. I didn't know at the time how far down Memphis was, but I knew Louisville was feeling puny. And so it wasn't like that he made a tremendous difference the first couple weeks he was there when he was Lawler's partner, but the match he got over and the matches got over, they worked around shortcomings, and he got the bear hug, the super southern squeeze on the Mongolian Stomper, and he's selling it, people are going crazy, right? And then when they come back, here was the problem. The problem is they came back when Robert Fuller had taken all the Knoxville guys, and we've talked about this.
Pete Austin.
Well, yeah. Well, hold on now. It wasn't the whole problem. There was other problems. But Fuller had taken all the guys back to Knoxville when the guys left to go with the Poffos, run opposition, Garvin, Roop, Orton, etc. The whole thing had shifted. Now Jarrett's got to rebuild the territory. So he shoots the Tupelo concession stand brawl angle, and he puts Wayne Ferris and Larry Latham as the Blonde Bombers on top. Later, the Honky Tonk Man and Moondog spot. My old partner, Danny Davis, was their manager, Sergeant Danny Davis.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead just because I want to see if there's anything else.
Saw him in 1981 when I was in Memphis when he came in the one shot to work with Lawler, when Jimmy Hart was bringing in all of Lawler's old nemesises and nemesi to face him, and he came and did that one shot.
They would always show that footage, and because Lawler didn't pin him, they would never show the finish.
Yes. It would, and a DQ was flat at that.
Hey, college wrestling guy, what's up? Welcome to the stream.
Point, but then Lawler got a hold of Jimmy Hart and people went crazy and blah, blah, blah. But nevertheless, in those 2 years, he had gotten confidence because he was a smart guy, especially when it came to what was getting him over, what was best for him. He picked that up quick.
Yeah, I talked about it for like the majority of the other stream. I'm skipping ahead in Jim Cornette's conversation just to see what else I can comment on.
Because he worked with all those top guys in that first 2 years, was exposed to all. He was partners with Jerry Lawler. They have to learn something, even for 3 weeks.
He worked with Harley, I think, in '79, didn't he?
Well, but then he's in the ring with Andre. And he's working for Jerry Jarrett, who he, always kind of acknowledged that was a big help to him. But he's working in Atlanta around Jim Barnett, even if they did name him Sterling Golden. And then Vince Sr. And in the ring with, the talent up there. So he was able to pick up. He was never going to be Flair as far as a in-ring performer, but for a guy that size that looked like that, he was able to pick things up quickly on how to either be a heel or later on how to be a babyface. And I mean, hulking up, if he'd have been wearing a strap, he'd have been a Lawler dropping a strap.
Yeah, see, there's always been debate about where Hogan picked up certain things. Like, it's obvious that Hulkamania was because of his exposure to Idolmania, when Austin Idol was doing that in Georgia. The superstar Billy Graham style promos, calling everyone brother, this and that, you can kind of see that. The hulking up, you've heard people say was Lawler. You've heard some people say it was the Crusher.
Well, it could have been any babyface, because see, that's the thing. It's not like Lawler invented that concept either. All babyfaces, pretty much in the last 50, 70 years, TV era, whatever, of wrestling, they had some movement or reaction that would indicate to the fans they've had all they can stands and they can't stands no more, and something might be about to happen. That's a very wide description. But again, this is where, and it's some Dusty too, when he was a babyface in Florida.
Yeah, I was going to say Dusty.
When he'd start wagging that finger, right? And Hogan's watching that, and he's partners with a guy that fucking gets pickled and fucking straightens up and turns away. And but of course he didn't do anything like Lawler did.
Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead.
Seems
I'm
the
so
movie and
sorry.
what everybody was talking about, and then he looks so good not only when he does the talk shows or the publicity, but by now this is what 4 years around all these people kind of contributing to telling him how to fucking get over, and he's smart, as I said, and he's learned it. Now he can go and bullshit the main. Oh yes, and that was publicity that most wrestlers didn't get in those days, because even if they were drawing the same kind of crowds, they didn't look like that, and they didn't have that visibility from being in a movie that would lead to those doors. And then, to be honest with you, a lot of them wouldn't have been able to, capitalize. You mentioned, but also it's common sense that Vince went for the charismatic, for
Yeah.
the package of charisma. Can this guy, Dusty Rhodes was at that time one of the top, certainly two or three or four box office attractions. I don't know who was bopping around right at that point in time. Uh, but he could talk, even though he looked nothing like Hulk. But you know that Hulk being able to talk.
Up, not to go too far ahead, you brought up the movies before. No Holds Barred came out when I was 9 in 1989. I had just become a big wrestling fan. I went with my neighbor to see it. Both of our parents refused to go.
Oh.
So it was the first movie I got dropped off for. Like, my parents and his parents both said, we're not sitting through this movie. And they were right. It was the first movie in my life I saw, and I'm like, this is bad. I realized Hogan was a terrible actor in that movie. He would get better. He was certainly better actually as an actor on wrestling than in movies, but
really, being somebody that would bite your fucking face off. And so they bought that, and Savage he was the.
Okay, so they're talking about his
It
life.
also, it was getting old, it was getting stale, it was a little cartoon with Yoko and a boo.
and then eventually when the scandal hits with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife, again, that comes on the heels of seeing this guy and his family and his wife and his son all over the place for years.
I talked about this. I talked about the MTV show, and yeah, like all that exposure really did Hogan no favors and even his family no favors, even though I think that at the time it was more like let's do this because they're really big, they're hot, they're what's interesting. That's exactly what Hollywood does. Hollywood does that. Hollywood jumps on these trends. They make you go up, 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 and then when you fall down, it's all like, oh, that's your fault kind of deal. And they don't catch you on the way down. They'll build you up for all of the money, for all of the headlines and all that kind of shit. But they don't take into accountability. You hear that? They don't take into accountability, meaning Hollywood. They don't take into accountability of what it can do on the downfall. So all of that exposure really did not help out Hogan when probably Hogan thought that it probably would have.
And then his son gets into the accident where that other kid gets messed up. It was a series of bad events outside of wrestling, and then inside of wrestling, there's TNA, there's that Australia tour with him and Flair having those matches where they busted each other up. But you were there right before he got to TNA.
Well, and also none of those did any favors, as you said. And I think especially the reality show familiarity with those people bred some level of contempt. It's just like enough is enough of these fucking people, right?
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, Hogan became like the ultimate Florida man. You always hear these stories. Florida man did this. Florida man did that. He was like the king of Florida man because he was all about being based in Florida. Anyone who was a big mocker in the Tampa Clearwater area, they knew him. I mean, I watched a documentary not too long ago about Lou Pearlman, the guy who ended up stealing all the money from a variety of people. He managed the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and I guess for a time Brooke Hogan. Hogan's all over that documentary, not being interviewed, but just in clips from being around. He became almost like a local celebrity there, separate from being a national celebrity.
But that's the point I was going to make. Is you mentioned that at the same time the Australia tour, and the guy had a lot of money, but Rick and Hogan both, at that point, I think they were at the time where people didn't want to see them rolling around bleeding anymore. And enough is enough. You guys have reached an age at some point where this must come to an end. And it wouldn't. It did for Hulk Hogan, it did for Rick. But the I said when we were talking about the TNA agent reports that I've been pulling out of the files and other things, TNA stories lately, that without having any idea anything was going to go on with Hulk Hogan, uh, I told Terry Taylor, I said, you couldn't even wait till I hear Ferrara's coming, or I would have fucking quit when Hogan and Bischoff came in the next month anyway, right? And well, why would you have quit with Hogan and Bischoff coming in? Not again. Well, I wasn't fond of Eric because of that previous brief interaction in WCW, but I didn't know anything about Hulk Hogan as a person. But I knew that no, this cause is lost. Jeff Jarrett's gone, Dutch Mantel's gone. They've already been burying these young guys that are hungrier, easier to work with, and more
Yeah.
exciting. And the creative already sucks. And now it's going to be a Hogan Bischoff thing when, I mean, truthfully and honestly, as we've seen for the 25 years, that was his MO. When Hogan comes in, all of his friends come with him. It's just at that point, all of his friends was 20 years older. And with Bischoff, the feedback that I'd always gotten on Eric Bischoff and still have to this day from anybody whose opinion about creating or booking or promoting wrestling that I respect is that Eric Bischoff knows a lot about sales and talking to TV people, and you would be astonished at what Eric Bischoff doesn't know about wrestling. So I wouldn't have wanted to, and as the product bore out, they had just got to the point, I believe, where they were either about to or almost had, or maybe even did in TNA break even there in the fall of 2009. And it went downhill from there and has only recently resurged 15 years later.
Yeah, it's a WWE
Yeah.
satellite, which is what it needed to be, I guess, to succeed. But that was the whole.
Well, yeah, but it didn't need to be the satellite of Bischoff and Hogan Hervey fucking Enterprises.
That's the
Because that,
thing. Yeah. It was the whole idea that Bischoff and Hogan were coming in to save things or coming in to, make things big again. And we're going to have a
Yeah.
live show or we'll go opposite Raw. We'll have all these stars and Jeff Hardy and the Nasty Boy. It didn't work. It didn't feel right.
Well, here's at that point, and Hogan is one of those guys that his personality was so big and his reputation was so big and he the magnitude of him, right? That you
Uh-huh.
needed to get him out of the way to get other people over. That if he was too old at the time to be a top in-ring talent, but he overshadowed in a lot of cases the other guys they were trying to use. You see what I'm
I really don't want to make this a WWE versus AEW thing, but doesn't that sound very, very familiar to what AEW is doing of having the WWE guys like overshadow their AEW guys, and all we see is ex WWE guys more than like the AEW guys? Excuse the yawn. I am hungry, and since we're streaming, I really can't make any food. If you guys want to, you guys can click on the link where it says treat stream to help me get some food, because I really can't. um I really don't want to like leave the stream in order to like make something and then like lose the momentum. So if anybody wants to treat me today, that would be fantastic. The links are in the chat. But yeah, it really does. History tends to repeat itself, that AEW is doing the same thing. AEW has all of the what do you call it, WWE guys front and center, and then the AEW guys are there, but the AEW guys are struggling. So yeah, it sounds very, very familiar to AEW. um
saying? And also, it was just old at that point. It was just stale. It was done.
And they have that last image of him leaving while dragging Dixie Carter, who's hanging onto his leg, and then he never comes back. He goes back to WWF. Then the scandal breaks out. He's gone. They remove him from the Hall of Fame for a few years. He comes back. He gives that speech to the locker room that does not go over well because he did not apologize. And, you know, he's kind of been an on and off presence over the last few years. It's crazy to think the last appearance he had was when he got booed out of the building in LA.
That's because LA is woke and we should not acknowledge Los Angeles until they fix their shit. I cannot believe like all of the weird shit is from LA. LA has some really bad skeletons in their closet as we've seen over the past months. But LA is going to be LA cuz LA are sheep. We should not be acknowledging Los Angeles even though like it's not all of California and I know we're just picking out a city, but um man, to be brainwashed and to live in LA is something. I don't think they got that union that they mentioned in 2019. I think they also got scrapped fast. I talked about a union. I thought like this union was about was like back in like the 80s and like late 90s where they wanted to do a wrestlers union. I do know that like a politician, Andrew Yang, wanted to do a fucking union for wrestling to try to get the vote of people so we could be like, yeah, let me get your vote, you know, blah blah blah. And we were all like, bro, don't come into our space not knowing what you're going to get into. Like, wrestling is nothing like anything else. But yeah, I think that might be the thing that you're talking about. I'm going to go grab myself some water because I am tired and hungry. That's like the only thing that I'm going to do. But I will be right back. If you guys want to get me food, that'd be fantastic. Okay. Um, I meant AEW. I thought Cody and his friends were also pushing a union for wrestling, unless that was a fever dream. I think that was a fever dream. They tried really hard to be like, they tried really hard to be like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna get equal pay, and nope, that doesn't work. Equal pay, equal opportunity, and equal TV time in the world of professional wrestling does not work.
Which in a lot of ways was a tone deaf appearance that WWE put him out there.
Yeah.
But he got booed, and then he did an interview with Ariel Helwani where he said, "Of course I did. I was Hollywood Hogan out there with every." No, he wasn't. I mean, he
No,
lied about it.
Jimmy Hart was waving an American fucking flag. Like, fuck you.
Listen, you got to play up the gimmick. It got to be kayfabe. You just got to turn it into something.
Fuck out of here. But and that's between the lack of apologies and the continuing revelations of, well, this wasn't true, and remember, he ripped his shirt off and said Donald Trump was his hero, and that caused a lot of people to start taking a piss on him.
Yeah, that was like 6 months or so before Raw, so that was in the air. That's right.
It was in the air.
That really shouldn't matter to people, man. Like, it really shouldn't. He felt strongly about it because Hogan is, American, like Americana. Like that's who he is. He had these thoughts already. He had the pride of America already, and he's from France. So basically he's an immigrant. But nobody thinks about that, right? Because they only see him as a white man, even though he's tan. But he's from France. He's a Frenchman. He probably was born here in. No, he wasn't. No. This could take just a simple search. But I do know that he is an immigrant. That he came here the legal way. That he came here the legal way. It's still very unfortunate that he passed away. Still very unfortunate. That's weird. Oh, so he was. Really? This is his Wikipedia page, so I'm taking this with a grain of salt. That he was a mixture of Italian, Panamanian, Scottish, and French descent. That could be a possibility, but he was born here, so he was American, born and raised, in 53. I thought he immigrated over here, at least as like a little kid. I guess not. He was born and raised here, so he was raised with values of the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and then when we get to the 2000s, especially after 2010, that's where a lot of values go downhill, and that's where feminism started to really become really bad, really, 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 really bad, because this new age of feminism is not working out. It's really not. And yeah, so uh I don't understand why we have to draw lines in the sand just because you want to support one over the other, and then if they don't agree with you, it's we got to get our pitchforks and this isn't fair or whatnot. Throughout history, trying to pick somebody for a political party has always been a thing. Now it's more just entertainment and content creation than before. But yeah, that shouldn't matter. But then again, LA people are just sheep at this point. So if you don't agree with them, then they're gonna boo you.
Like one of Andre's farts. So, and I assume he's one of the people that his wife or one of his wives or some blonde person that he has married has led him to God also, because he's been doing the just over the top religious thing, which you can't take seriously from a guy that says he used to wrestle 500 times a year because he flew backwards from Japan. But he was over the top with that, like he's over the top with everything else. I think that is just all those things have various. It's a cumulative thing, like it was when he was wrestling other baby faces or people that the fans liked. When he's done things that a variety of people, maybe in small numbers, but like the Who's down in Whoville, it gets louder. Cumulatively, a lot of people said, I don't like this fucking guy anymore.
Yeah, and a few years ago he got married, and the woman he married was apparently a big to do in Scientology. So a lot of people were thinking, like, oh, Hulk Hogan's going to become a Scientologist, which would have been amazing because he would have broken their whole audit system once they tried to interview him and get some real stories out of him or anything. But, she was apparently baptized with him a few years ago, so it may have gone the other way. He may have gotten her and
Good Lord.
brought her to him under the good Lord, as you just said.
Oh, good Lord.
But, he was still doing interviews. I mean, that's one of the reasons we would always talk about him, is people would send us these interview clips where he's saying things that are just clearly not true. But he's so committed to saying them that he could almost convince you. And if you don't know anything, he would convince you. And random projects and products that would pop up. Now there's the Hulk Hogan Real American Beer commercials all over Raw, and Real American Freestyle Wrestling, once again, him and Bischoff. That was about to launch with him as the commissioner, and there was just articles in the paper a month ago, 2 months ago. Him and partners bought a building.
I understand that all this stuff is very sensory overload and very like too much the way that they're really, 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 really framing it. But why can't we say that Hogan was giving people jobs by creating the American Beer Company, where he created his own beer? So now you have people getting a job in marketing. Now you have people getting a job in taste testing the beer. You book women to do dances and promote the beer, and then you could source out influencers for the beer, those that like to talk about beer and wine and alcohol, and like in a very moderate way. Like, he's giving people jobs. um Hogan and Bischoff doing freestyle American wrestling, something that they both enjoy, giving more people a chance to work, giving more people a chance to make some money. Because like you can't really go far in American amateur wrestling. I don't think you can. It's not like professional wrestling where you can. But they're giving people jobs, they're giving people a little bit more money. It may not be like overwhelming money like on AEW and Tony Khan, but like they're giving people money. Shouldn't we be celebrating the fact that he's actually doing good and giving people jobs and making decisions and creating businesses and trying to do something unique for the community, something a little bit different? If you get tired of watching wrestling, you can watch some freestyle amateur wrestling. You can get on a podcast and talk about that, and that brings more eyes to their product. That brings more fans, more revenue, more live streams. Like, why are we saying that this is a bad thing? They're probably not saying it's a bad thing. They're just giving like the bigger picture perspective of like, oh, is this way too much of all this shit? But this is a good thing. And this is, helping people.
Or bought a storefront across from Madison Square Garden to open up a Hulk Hogan bar.
That's right. I remember we talked about that at the time.
Or him and investors are looking to buy Hooters. And, we should say, because we talked about...
I've been out there looking to buy a few Hooters in my time, but I didn't realize he was that frisky these days. You mean the restaurant?
The restaurant chain. And I believe it's also...
Listen, guys are going to be guys, no matter what. Like, women are beautiful to look at. So are men.
Based in Florida, or at least originally, but... we talked about the Bubba the Love Sponge stories a few weeks ago when he started coming out, I believe, again, the same market, I believe it's still Tampa, saying that he was hearing that Hulk Hogan was on his deathbed. Of course, they had a big falling out. You have to say, it turns out he probably knew what he was talking about, a lot of these things. We started hearing from people, without exposing any sources, a variety of people who seemed to, more than one person, who seemed to be aware, based on what they were saying, of certain things happening medically. And it seemed to be a pretty grim picture. They kept putting out positive statements. I know Jimmy Hart the other day said that everything was fine. He was doing karaoke with Nick the other night. But it was clear that there were some really serious medical issues, and they said cardiac arrest. It hits suddenly. And again, like I said, it's a conflicted feeling for a lot of us. It's a very complicated legacy. It's the character, it's the important role the character played, and the things that the character was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the real person who, at times, seemingly without being malicious, was an incredibly self absorbed, self obsessed carny, for lack of a better term. And it may have worked for him throughout his life, but it creates this situation where an all time legend, again, like you said at the very top of this, taking Jim Londos out of the equation, the biggest star we've ever seen in this country for professional wrestling. But there's a lot of conflicted thoughts. What?
No, there isn't. Why are we putting Hulk Hogan on this pedestal that he has to be such an angel? We don't do, I mean, we probably do that for other people and then be like, whatever, but like, for some reason, we like, I don't understand this need for like, Hogan, if you didn't do any of those things, we will still like you. Like, I understand that he is a larger than life character. We should not have put him on a pedestal like that. He is still a human being. He is still man. He still has flaws. He still has free will. We all like hit rock bottom. We all say shit we don't mean. But it doesn't mean that you will put us on a pedestal just because we are larger than life, just because we are the top of the celebrities and whatnot. But like, I don't understand this need for like, if you didn't do this, we will still like you, knowing that there are people in your life that always get a free pass. No matter how many times you try to hold them accountable, they get a free pass. They still do the same thing. There's no repentance for it. There's no like change for it. There's no like helping out the community. There's no helping out the family. They could do the most heinous shit ever, still get a free pass. But they're looked upon as like an angel. We all know somebody like that in our family or like in our friendship or in our groups. But Hogan is none of that. Like, none of those big ass things, nothing that's like heinous. If Hogan decided to do some really bad actions, because actions are louder than words, then yeah, we could definitely feel like this. But we gotta like stop this idea of like, put him on there as like an angel. Cause like nobody's an angel, man.
When trying to evaluate and weigh what kind of guy he was.
We shouldn't be doing that. We should not be judging him by that. We cannot like the stuff and we could say we don't like it and you can move on, but like we shouldn't be judging him for it. Um because, it may come off as judging at some points, but like we shouldn't be doing that. If you don't like something, acknowledge that you don't like it, give a head nod, move on. If you're offended, you're probably finding something to be offended about because again, it just doesn't make any sense at all. But everybody goes with the energy first, and then that's it. But we shouldn't really like try to weigh the two people. Like, no, he did some bad things. He handled it appropriately to the best of his ability, nobody else's ability. And that's what it was. That's what he did.
Well, and as you said, it's the person and the gimmick, but I think this is a case where they became the same thing. I mean, it is not a new story in wrestling. He spent almost 50 years convincing people that he was Hulk Hogan, except during that lawsuit when he said, no, he's a completely different guy with a completely different penis size. But he had to be Hulk Hogan. And, we've always seen you don't get to be a big star without having a big ego. Sometimes you have a big ego, you don't get to be a big star, but both can be trouble. He was somewhat of a Teflon guy, in that when he got in trouble in one respect, he would be bailed out from another quarter coming in. I think he got caught up in that and started believing his own shit and just felt like that's who he has to be, maybe in public and in private. As I said, I don't know. I'm looking from the outside because that's why I can say that I neither personally liked him or disliked him. And as we've been able to have this conversation about what we saw, like everybody else saw.
But again, very few people ever have had or ever could have the impact he had on the professional wrestling business. You bring up The Rock and Steve Austin, Jim Londos, Lee's self-induced drama. And I thought about her just because, obviously her and her dad were very close and they had issues. And whatever reason, it made me think of her. And the other person was Jimmy Hart, who, so much of his life, seemingly, his career, has been the Hulk Hogan business since at least 93. I mean, everything with him publicly is him dressed in the Hulk Hogan colors, with the Hulk Hogan megaphone.
Okay, I'm
The
skipping ahead.
various programs, the Cult of Cornette audience, the people out.
Come on, let me see them. And they are so comfortable. They are the.
Okay, that'll be the end of us listening to that. Oh, yo, thanks for the follow over at Rumble Glisser fan. Does it not tell me when like someone? I mean, it told me on my phone. That's about it. Overall, I think it still felt a little bit more dancing around the situation, and you could probably say that during my whole live stream it was like that too. But for the most part, you know, I really don't want to push back, and this isn't supposed to be argumentative. It's mostly supposed to be like giving a different perspective on like the situation and whatnot, and the nuances and stuff like that. And it's like, people want to make themselves the victim. People want to make themselves like, see how bad this white man is towards me. And it's like, he doesn't know you. He could say things, but is he actively trying to get you to stop what you do on a daily basis? No, then stop it. um there are always going to be bad apples out there who are truly bad apples, that and they need to be dealt with appropriately in the situations depending on what it is. But generally speaking, there are always going to be bad apples no matter what. Just because there are bad apples does not mean that the good people out there get like pushed away and stuff like that. It's just one of those things of like, if you are not willing to change the perspective of your community, and this goes across all communities that we know, if you're not willing to change the perspective of your community, then basically don't get upset if someone has to spotlight it in a different way that doesn't have any nuance in it, but like the main idea is there. And if you were around the time that during that era and whatnot, like things were just a little bit different. Like, you don't want people that you love to run around with idiots, because anything can happen. They can end up in jail, they can end up in prison, they can end up not being here anymore, like because of stupid decisions. So sometimes you want to protect the people that you love the most, to not hang around with stupid people. But sometimes when people just say things when they're at rock bottom, if they're drunk, if they're not thinking, if they're very, very comfortable in the situation and don't know that their privacy is going to be uh interrupted, people say things. I don't understand why that is being held so high, rather than actions, because actions are a lot more worse than anything else. If you mistreat people, that's like bad. Those are actions. You're like, okay, that person is bad because they mistreat people. If you could also mistreat people verbally as well. But with that, you have a chance to fight back and punch them in the face. And then you probably go to therapy. But the other kind of mistreatment, you may not. So it's one of those like actions are a lot more louder than words, and we've always learned through actions of like, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, don't do that. Let's find a way to come to a better conclusion other than like, the actions that are seen. But if someone just says something like that, shouldn't be from 0 to 100. Oh my god. um there's this video that I wanted to listen to, because I don't know if this clip is on YouTube, but it's Vince Russo answering a question from a fan. The question is, and this is sent through a super chat. By the way, guys, if you're on YouTube with me, not only like the video and share the video out, but you guys can also send in super chats that will gladly help me with things that I'm dealing with behind the scenes, such as this overdraft that I don't know when I'm going to be taking care of it. But you guys can send in super chats to help out, get your questions answered and stuff like that. You could also grab a membership as well, youtube.com/, Square Circle Podcast /join. And then if you don't want to do any of that and just want to get me food to continue streaming, because I don't know how streamers do this without like, getting food. There is a pinned comment about going to Treat Stream and buying me food. Because man, I really don't know how streamers do this. So Vince Russo is responding to the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, is making an excellent case on how wrestling fans are not real people. The buffoonery has been something to witness, and I don't even have X. I'm gonna play the clip on my phone because I don't know if this clip is around. So, oh, hold on. What?
ICW. DS, thank you, bro. The ICW is making an excellent case on how wrestling fans are not real people. The buffoonery has been something to witness, and I don't even have X, bro. Because you know why, man? They're not human beings, bro. They're not. I don't even know what they are. If you are going to say anything negative about Hulk Hogan and you are a wrestling fan, if you're a wrestling fan, bro, and you're going to say anything negative about this man after he passes, you are a clueless, bumbling, buffoonish asshole. It's that simple, bro. Why do you think I pay the internet wrestling community no attention? Why do you think, bro? Because those are the individuals that you are dealing with, bro.
And he is totally right, because I say it too, that there has been this influx of new wrestling fans that are like 19 to 25, and they want the whole world to bend the knee to them, and then they talk a lot of shit, and then they research whatever it is. Research, I'm gonna put it in air quotes, research, and still talk shit. And then when you try to tell them about something, they'll automatically be like, I'm a minor. It starts from like 17 to like 25, but they're like, oh my god, I'm a minor, how dare you talk to me like that? Well, why are you in adult businesses? Like, get out of the conversation if you are not an adult. But then again, you cannot control the internet. The internet cannot be controlled, even though, as I say that, right now over in the UK, they passed the Online Protection Act, where you need to like upload your ID to see certain things. So like, they really have a lockdown on the internet. So I guess you can control the internet, but for the most part, America here is protected by the First Amendment. But people buy bots, people have burner accounts, people want to harass. And I use the term people loosely, because again, a lot of these people or bots or whoever want to use non-standard like profile pictures, where it's either an anime profile picture, no profile picture, a wrestler profile picture, and they take on the personality of like, this is my only personality trait. I have nothing else to give to society. I have nothing else to contribute to society and whatnot. And it's like, you know, we got to get these people out of here or like try to control it some way. But this is what happens when like over the years you tend to open up wrestling to like everybody and be like wrestling is for everybody. No, wrestling is not for everybody. Especially for like when it comes to fans that want to control the narrative, that want to control what they like, and definitely want people to bend the knee to them. And they go after people for no reason, just because you don't like a certain particular kind of wrestling that they like. And it's like, I don't have to like what you like. The same way that you don't have to like what I like. The same way that if you have a difference of opinion on like everything that I said here today, that's totally fine. Let me know. But that doesn't mean like, you know, I'm wrong, you're right kind of deal. But yeah, Russo is totally right about that. That they're not actual people. They're bots. They're burners. And the faster that you guys learn that, the easier it is. Do you know how many mutuals I see on my Twitter timeline responding to bots and burners and idiots? That I'm like, I get it. It's content. You guys are gonna turn it around and make content, but at the same time, it's like you're spending so much energy when you could be doing different things that can help the community, that can elevate the community, that can, you know, do something a little bit different other than like arguing with idiots just to show that they're idiots and they're not going to change. And if you know they're not going to change and they do the things that they do for from farming and engagement and all this kind of shit, like, again, misery loves company. I totally get that. But sooner or later you're gonna have to be like, hey, um you know, this is not worth it. This time and energy is not worth it. It really isn't. That's why I think that, you know, my content isn't truly like out there just because I'm like, hey, I'm not showing you guys this idiot that I want to like respond to and whatnot. I'm like, hey, let's have a lesson on like, you know, this wrestling match. Let's have a conversation about this here, because I think this would be very good content, like we did with listening to Jim Cornette talking about Hogan and whatnot. Like, you know, I'm just not here for the stupid ass drama. Some stuff needs to be said to bring awareness to it, and that's what I would do, but not be like, hey, you know, this is we gotta crap on these people, because then what's the point? You are lowering yourself to them no matter what. You know, you're lowering yourself to them. Like, why would you want to lower yourself to them, knowing that they're not going to care, they're going to sleep very 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 good at night, and it's going to be the same cycle over and over and over again by tomorrow, you know. But yeah, that's my take on it. The people are not real. I'm going to show off some thumbnails and talk about it a little bit more, because in the other two live streams before this one is a really really good one. I did mention that like I never wanted to have politics into my wrestling. I never wanted to talk about politics into my wrestling, but like, you know, we just gotta talk about the origins of like why that's happening. Because I really do not want politics in my wrestling, because it makes no fucking sense. Um, and yeah, if you guys still want to buy me food, that'd be great. Again, I don't know how streamers do this. Because I'm about, like, after I talk about these thumbnails, I'm probably gonna get offline, and as I say that, that's not gonna help out if someone buys me food. But yeah. So I have um let me grab this for a second. Uh you know what? Let me see if I have the other okay, so let me go all the way back. Let me see if I have the first thumbnail that I did for what I'm doing. No, I don't. Um I feel like I have this wrong. Give me a second here, guys, because I want to do this right, rather than jumping around. Nope, that's not. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. The chat community, right? Sometimes as a content creator, you want to start some new stuff. I always have this thing where it's like, if something is dead, right? I always want to start something fresh, something new. So I created the chat community, which is a Discord, a new Discord. But I am really like holding on to I can't say like I don't want to say holding on to peace in a way, but just it's invite only. Okay? However, uh anybody could come on through. It's invite only though, cuz I'm really trying to weed out assholes, because assholes have burned me in the past when it comes to discords and making discords and trying to make, trying to be all cool and everything. So if you decide to get a paid membership, obviously you get bumped up to being a VIP member. Yeah, yeah. Uh like I said in my other one, I'm keeping both. But the chat community is where, like, if I'm live streaming or if I put up a new video, that's for like new people to join. Um, you know, that's just for new people to join. I have voice messages in there. It's This is where I can say it's complicated for my content creation. Because when you go so fast, right? And I feel like I went fast in like 6 years of creating the Square Circle podcast, and joining this group, having a fallout with this group, joining another group, having a fallout with them, and then again being back by yourself. And I'm not saying that to sort of separate my community of the Discord of the Shadow Den, but as a content creator in a sea of other content creators that I have considered my friends, we all just broke apart. So when you constantly have moments in your podcasting career where you thought that you have like really good podcasting friends and buddies and collaborators, and then they all just like throw you under the bus, or they tend to, I don't even know how else to describe the other ones, but like throw you under the bus, just act really differently and whatnot. It's one of those things of like, what can I do now to cultivate a good community? Because I don't really like how the IWC is always in their echo chamber. I don't like that the IWC constantly talks about unverified news and rumors, and how the dirt sheets end up talking about wrestlers like as if like they're not human, releasing information and whatnot. Like, I don't like any of that stuff. So my Discord, the new one, the chat community, like going forward, obviously it's for new viewers, new people, new fans. The reason why it's called the chat community is because, like, what do streamers do? They're like, hey chat, what's up chat? Welcome to the stream chat. We're always saying like, hey chat, hey this. So basically that's why it's called the chat community. But to everyone that is in the regular one, the Shadows Den, you guys can stay there. I'll post like some updates and whatnot. Or you can move over. It's totally up to you. But I don't forget you guys. You guys are still there. It's just that I wanted something where it could be a little bit more structured. a little bit more different, have my thoughts there, and for new people to come in. I hope that makes sense because I don't feel like I explain things appropriately or right when it comes to like the content creation and whatnot. I always feel like I over explain my stuff, my stuff. So the chat community is where I have voice notes. I did volumes 1, 2, and 3. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 are free to listen to. However, when I'm doing volume 4, which I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, because these voice notes are more or less about what I'm thinking about, what I'm feeling about. If I want to give advice to podcasters, oh my God, if I want to give advice to podcasters, if I want to give advice to the world or whatever the fuck, like, advice, whatever I want to talk about, that's where that's at. Those are thoughts that like won't make it onto a podcast episode. Basically that's what it is. But volume 4 will be behind a paywall and a privated section of the Discord. So when you decide to upgrade, you get access to that. Just to be on the nice side, I will release maybe like 1 or 2 voice notes that are free. But essentially all the free content that I have, needs something. I have a lot of free content. And sometimes some stuff have to go paid. Because this is very different from like, hey, let's talk about wrestling. However, I will say here that the Square Circle podcast talking about professional wrestling, all of those podcast episodes moving forward will always be free. If I need to do tape study series, that gets picked or choose about being behind a paywall. Some stuff in the Crossroads series, basically talking about other topics that are not wrestling related. Some of them will be on the paywall. Some of them will be free. So it's me picking and choosing. But like essentially, when you decide to upgrade to a paid, whether or even like send me a one-time tip, I will appreciate it. All that stuff goes towards taking care of like any overdrafts that I have, and I know that I set myself up for people to really harass me on that, which I don't care. If you're not talking about stuff that is currently hindering you, then like, how are we growing as a community? Especially if like the service here is me making content and hoping to get something back in return. Whether that is love, word of mouth, a new membership, or even like, food, or, a super chat or something like that, so any type of help that you guys give me, it's more on what can I upgrade, for the next month? What can I buy that's necessary, for, content creation and just, stuff for my household. What food can I get? How can I, repay people and whatnot in a way. But not repay people for like debt and stuff. I mean like you guys that are listening to community, because you guys are giving me your revenue. What can I do to further enrich that? Basically, because some people want to know where like their money goes to. It goes to like making sure that I'm able to do more live streams, do more video content, invest in getting a new laptop and like streaming equipment. Like I said earlier in one of the other videos, I say thank you to Anonymous, who bought some stuff off of my throne wish list, which by the way, the kettlebell that Anonymous bought me is going to do well, so I could get back into getting strong and working out. And also the secret gift that Anonymous got me, which got kind of spoiled, is going to change the game. So now I can do a little bit more different content on like different platforms, such as like, Instagram, more Instagram reels, more YouTube shorts. If you guys support me financially, I can go to a lot more wrestling events and do more vlogs, because I miss doing vlogs. Like I feel so rusty doing vlogs. I'm just trying a little bit of everything. get back on the road, when I get back on the horse for like interviewing people, that'll be under the Crossroads interview series and whatnot. There's a lot of things that I plan to do. But anyway, the chat community is basically the new Discord. Moving forward, that's for like all new viewers to come on by. It is free to come on by. Again, I will not forget you guys that are in the Shadow Den. It's just, that's just something that I have inside, is where I want things to be more active in a way. And I totally get it. People have lives. I get it. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I want things to take on a life of their own in a way, in a good way, where I can still be like overseeing it and whatnot. But yeah, so the chat community is the first ever value that you guys can go listen to for free on, on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you find your podcast is at. Just search Square Circle Podcast. For people over at Rumble that are going to be watching the VOD, I will eventually just be uploading my stuff, just so you're aware. The chat community volume 1 has everything to do with just thoughts, right? Just thoughts. We don't get political at this point. Now, thumbnail number 2, which is why Twitter rewards toxicity. This is where I was talking in the voice notes. This is volume 2. Again, it is free to listen to on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, or on Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere you get your podcast on, or even if you sign up to my wrestling newsletter, marieshadows.substack.com, for all of that, right? This here is all about, I explained the Twitter algorithm. So not so long ago in this stream, I was explaining how, like, no matter what you do, there are always going to be bots, burners, people who like to farm for engagement, people who like to be dishonest, people who just like to throw out tweets for the hell of it. And Twitter rewards the negative. Twitter rewards, the most engaged, and it brings no value because everybody is arguing. And if you're arguing over arguments, what are you truly accomplishing for, Twitter and your community and whatnot? You're just wasting your energy, because the bots and the burners that you're going after are not going to care. They're going to sleep very soundly at night while you're still up and angry and all that kind of stuff. So I explained that Twitter rewards the toxicity for it. And I also, revealed that because I do things a little bit differently on, the Square Circle Podcast and what I have planned, it just feels like everything is not going according to plan. And that if I'm not talking about negative stuff, it doesn't bring in people, and it doesn't bring in revenue. And this is me just being extremely honest with you guys. Extremely honest, just to put things into perspective, not to even, complain about whatever it is, but just to put it into perspective, because this here also teaches other people that, nothing here is glamorous. Being a content creator is not glamorous. Everybody that you see that does content creation, that shows their setup, most of that shit is free. They have been given that stuff. They basically are influencers. They're like, oh my God, look at my pretty setup. I don't have that. My setup is basically my laptop right here and my freaking camera and this and a background. Like, I don't have anything fancy. I don't have like cool lights. I don't have all that kind of stuff. So social media tends to get into people's heads that you are worth money. No. Not all of us. We're still on that grind. We're still on that, like, climbing the ladder, making sure people see us, trying our best to maneuver around the noise And, you know, Twitter rewards those that are very loud and negative. When you try to do thoughtful content, when you try to do different perspective content, when you try to, you know, bring awareness to the things that you love, sometimes Twitter rewards that, but not all the time. You'll be battling against everybody else. It's a matter of like, who, I don't want to say it's a matter of who has the biggest dick, but it kind of is like who has the biggest dick on Twitter. When I'm here, like, guys, like, can we start elevating each other in the IWC rather than just being like, this person is stupid. Look at this tweet. This is stupid. This is stupid. And it's like, the more you do that, they're not going to learn. They're not really going to do anything. You know, so that's that. We don't get to the political stuff yet. This is where, oh wait, hold on, this is the first one. Guys, how do you like this thumbnail? Let me know. How do you guys like this thumbnail? And if you guys agree with anything that I've said, hit that like button, hit that follow button, share it out. And if you want, buy me some food, please. I would appreciate you guys. So that way I can continue going and talking to you guys. This is the first one that I did. This is the second one that I did, which is a lot better, a lot better. So like I said, I did not think that I would have to talk about anything political. And when I say anything political, I mean the whole idea about like feminism and stuff like that, because I'm not a feminist at all. Like, I don't really like it. It's so stupid. It's supposed to be like, you know, women for women. Yeah, let's go women. Woohoo. And it's never about that, because sometimes, like, you could find your, I was gonna say soulmate. You could find your friendship soulmate to be like your best friend is a girl. Totally valid, totally cool. However, to get everybody to try to agree and be on the same vision and stuff like that, and it's like, no, you know, most women are petty. Most women will stab you in the back. Most women are narcissistic. And you know, when it comes to the wrestling business, I don't understand this need for always wanting like separate stuff. Would you be opposed if you had a picture of yourself with a Mick Foley thumbs up smile for your thumbnail? I think that would be interesting. I have no idea. I have no yes or no answer for you. Just so you know, the way that I come up with my thumbnails, it's like what I'm feeling and like the main overall idea of like the podcast episode. So I wouldn't be opposed if I needed a picture of Mick Foley with like the thumbs up smile, right? If I needed it, then I'll use it, but like I wouldn't be opposed. I don't know, I wouldn't be opposed. But anyway, I see myself as me, Marie Shadows, where like I have my own thoughts, I have my own opinions, you know, across the board for, you know, both genders, and like how men should be treated, how women should be treated, and that, you know, men need to hear the phrase, thank you, men. Okay? So this episode here wasn't really like a Discord voice notes, because I think that would have like not went over well, but whatever. This was me being frustrated and a little bit emotional. But me being frustrated because of the situation. I was saying earlier that I do not understand why women always need to have everything separate. Women will say that they want equal rights, the same rights as men. But then when you question and push back, it's like no matter the experience that you have, you are in the wrong because you're not thinking like everybody else. If you say that you want equality for all, that technically means that the women want their cake and eat it too. If you happen to be a guy, you're not going to get in. If you happen to, no longer want to be a guy, you might get in. But, if you're a guy through and through, the equality is really not for you. That's what we've seen over the past couple of years, which is really unfortunate. Anyway, so the situation here is that Bully Ray over here said his famous quote, right? That says, I don't think we need to single out. Okay, let me just start over. I don't think we need to single the women out anymore and give them their own shows. I think the women have proven themselves that they should have their segments, their matches, their promos on main shows because they belong as much as the men do. And I agree with that because if anybody gets into the wrestling business as a female, you really want to hear, hey, you're good enough to be with us. And my whole entire premise for this episode was that men gave us the space, the platform, and the time. It may not have been like all like roses and sunshine and perfect and wrapped up in a bow, in a bow, but the men gave us the time, the space, and the platform to become what we see today as women's wrestling. It took so many years, but it was still a trailblazing kind of thing that the men moved over in their own sport to be like, you could come hang with us. The men of professional wrestling did not try to create what Japan has, where Japan separates the sexes. In Japan, they're like, hey, New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, like Pro Wrestling Noah, like you guys are all men rosters. And then for Stardom and like TJPW and whatnot, they're all women wrestlers, all women rosters. So over here in America, we gave equal opportunity to both men and women. Again, it's not like wrapped up neatly in a bow, we had to make it what we had to make it. And look how well it turned out after so many years and how good the women have become. So I agree with Bully Ray because it's together, it's an effort, it's teamwork. I've said this throughout the whole entire episode that it is a team effort. Now, as I go and explain from my experience, because I worked in both like co-ed locker room, men and women, and I worked in an all women's locker room because I used to do commentary for Goddesses of War Wrestling by way of Titan Championship Wrestling. And so I got to experience both sides, which I love dearly. I do not care about the sides. But I got to experience all of that. And, I wouldn't change it for the world. And by the way, yes, we do want to hear that, you're good enough to be with us. And that is respect. And that's all I ever wanted for my peers. And that's what I got from my peers. And I am happy to work alongside them because I know what it takes. If you don't know what it takes and you still want to be like, ew, men are gross. They got cooties. Grow up. That's what I can say. Anyway, I explained my experience. And then I responded to a female that basically gave the most, I don't know what year this would have been in. I don't know what year Fragile Masculinity came in, but she mentioned that Bully Ray was butthurt and he had fragile masculinity. And I had to tell her, no, we're not doing that in 2025. We're not going to be using the phrase fragile masculinity because there is no fragile masculinity if Bully Ray thinks that the women are just as good as the men and they deserve to be there. While not all women can be on the same card and have all the same matches and have all the same times and everything, the women have been positioned to be in backstage segments, to be all the way in the back. Now fans on Twitter are like, yo, did you see those, did you see like Chelsea Green in the back or like, did you see the Wyatt Six in the back or whatever? There's something going on in real time. So the women still have their TV time. It may not be the same like going out and having a match. But anyway, I had to tell her like my experience or whatever. Surprising, I didn't get a response. But then the one friend that I thought that would have had my back or would have been like, okay, I see where you're coming from. You know, basically created this because we got to stop selling women equality and, give them the truth behind what it truly means to have equal pay, equal opportunity, and equal TV time. And those don't work in the wrestling business. Those don't work in life. Those don't work in like any kind of form of entertainment because if you're gonna have equal pay, we have created all of the jobs that you currently see. It is all man-made. And when I say man, I don't mean to just single out like male men. I just single out like human beings. Everything that we have today has been created by a human being in one way, shape, or form, right? So the job that you do versus the job that I do are completely different, and we get paid completely different. So how can we get equal pay? Why would there be equal pay in wrestling if Roman Reigns is able to sell more tickets than the freshly new indie star that happens to be a female that just graduated from their wrestling school? Why does she end up getting $1 million a year? And Roman also gets $1 million a year, but she hasn't sold any tickets. She's just fresh out of wrestling school. That was one of the examples that I used for that in that episode. And then, the equal opportunity, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why are my opportunities the same as somebody else? That doesn't really make any sense. Like, my opportunities are from my own specific journeys going forward, and someone else has different goals and different opportunities for their journey. They should not be the same. And how can that be for wrestlers? Everybody in the wrestling business goes to a seminar and they get a lecture and then they get a tryout, and you have to be the very best of the best. If we gave everybody equal opportunity, then that means that everybody at the seminar, whether they were good or bad, gets to advance in the tryout, and that's like giving participation trophies. And we dealt with that like in the 2010s, where like there's no more competition, there's no more like we got to work at it. There's more like, here, let me give you a participation trophy. Like, why do you want that to be equal? We are creatures of habit, and we are creatures of competition. So like, keep that the same. And then the third one was equal TV time. And if you know anything about, TV stations and businesses and, ad space, and including for us here as being podcasters, we sell, ad space. TV shows sell ad space. Networks sell ad space. So basically, like Monday Night Raw, if like the men get 20 minutes for their monologue, and it creates excitement, but you get 20 minutes to the women and it doesn't create any excitement, then who's to blame? You can't do that. Segments are going to be different. Runtime is going to be different. On the indies, we always say stick to your time. So if you have a 15-minute promo battle, make it 15 minutes or less. If you have a 15-minute match which includes entrances, you got to make that work. If you go over your time, that might be a bad thing, because if you're renting out a space, you only have it for a certain amount of time. Sometimes they don't go over the time. Like, there's a lot to factor in. You can't have equal TV time. What does that look like for professional wrestling? It doesn't really work. So that's something that I really dive into, and I really do say and stand my ground on. I do not believe in these three things. I do not believe in equal pay. I do not believe in equal opportunity, and I do not believe in equal TV time. I really don't. Because again, it might look good on paper, but when you start breaking it down and start applying it to real life in current times, it's not going to work out well. And this is why we have to stop selling equality to women and give them the truth about like, yo, this doesn't work. And like, I just don't like the whole feminist bullshit kind of deal. And then the last part for this one is about thanking men, to which my former friend said that thanking men for crumbs is silly. And I'm like, bro, what do you mean thanking men for crumbs is silly? Just because Bully Ray did not give women equal pay, equal opportunity, and equal TV time, and didn't treat women nice. Which, by the way, if you don't know how New Yorkers act, if we see that you are not pulling your weight, we just might say some shit. Okay, it's probably gonna come off a little rude, but we're New Yorkers, and again, if you're not pulling your weight, we're gonna say something. I would say something too if someone's not pulling their weight. So you really can't hold Bully Ray to that freaking standard. He's a New Yorker. If you don't understand how New Yorkers act, just come by my streams and ask me, and I would let you know. The more that you understand how New Yorkers act, the less you guys will react towards being stupid. Because sometimes the reactions towards New Yorkers are like, oh my God, why can't you be like us? Because we're not. We're a lot more truthful and like straight to the point. And again, if you're not pulling your weight, we will let you know. Because we don't hold anything back. Anyway, so so Bully Ray didn't do any of this stuff when he was Booker for the women, and it's like he did what he needed to do. But the fact of saying that, thanking men for crumbs is silly really got to me. Because then, without anything that we have ever created, it was all created by men. It really was. There might be some stuff that like were created by women and whatnot, which is like, a thing to look into, but the majority of stuff was created by men. And then we came along and we were like, hey, we want to either be alongside you or like, do this on our own and stuff like that. But we do have women who run their own businesses. We do have women that like are bosses and whatnot. And I'm not going to say the boss babe because that was a whole stupid little marketing shit. But like women have become what they want to become. Some are forced to become whatever it is that feminists say that they should become, and they become miserable. But for the most part, most women are comfortable like where they're at and what they're doing. But again, I just didn't like that, so I created this, and this is where the whole political shit started, where I'm like, we shouldn't be talking about this in wrestling. We shouldn't. If you do not like what Bully Ray has said, try to understand other people's perspective, especially being like hands-on and like in the front lines in wrestling and understanding two different locker rooms. And you don't see any of the bickering that you see online in the locker rooms. You don't, especially when it's like male and female on the roster. Everybody is so respectful, everybody is so cool and everything. So I have good experiences, but this was the first one that brought in freaking politics into it. And then now seeing a very influx of young people that want to be activists in professional wrestling as a wrestling fan are really annoying, and they're bringing in more politics into it. And the way that bots, burners, and maybe real people talk about wrestling and try to divide us, and if we watch WWE we're MAGA, and it's like, what? Can you guys act normal for once? I understand the internet is where you could become a character and nobody can hold you accountable because you don't know what that means and you don't want that to happen to you. But like, what? Why are you throwing a label on people that never really confirmed, denied, or even said anything about that? Why are you doing that? Back in the late 90s, 2000s, nobody wanted to have a label thrown on them, but like now in 2025, everybody has to have a label. Everyone has to be divided. Everyone has to be separate. Like, what is that? But yet then in the same breath, they'll be like, no, we want equality. We want you guys to come over here. No, you don't. This is not really being progressive or anything new in 2025. It's history repeating itself. It's going back on a loop. And unfortunately, that was the big podcast episode that basically had to start it all, just to talk about it. And it's like, why are we doing this? There was no point at all. But sometimes people come into your life for a season, which that's going to be a crossroads episode of like people coming into your life for a season, and it is okay to say that they come into your life for a season for any reason, and they either, you know, it was good, bad, in between, whatever it is, but people come into your life for a season, and that's totally okay. um Let me see if I need to talk about one other thing. Oh yeah, this one. This one was like a fuck it. We're gonna talk about stuff. We're gonna have confessions from me, from a wrestling content creator, and the fake or the fox like righteousness of people wanting control, because it's really sad that uh you know, the people who always say that, oh yeah, we're tolerant, we're respectful, you know, we want you here, we love you, blah blah blah, you know, whatever else you want to throw in there, for the most part they end up you know, not doing that, and then they seek out specific people just to be really nasty to them. And I explained in here too about a situation where they do that to my buddy MD. And, you know, it's like you can't criticize like anybody online for some odd reason, because they think that you're jealous and you want like a job with dirt sheets. And it's like, no, I'm doing fine on my own. Like, I'm creating my own thing, I'm creating my own lane. I'm getting people to know about my content, I'm expanding. I'm not here trying to make fun of stupid people. I'm here trying to elevate the wrestling community, elevate how we think, elevate how we perceive things, you know, basically have thoughtful conversations, real, true conversations. And if that's something that you enjoy, if you're over at Rumble, hit that follow button. I'm going to try my best to understand Rumble and hit that follow button over on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast. And just like the videos. But anyway, this was like a huge ass confession where I basically tell you guys behind the scenes of like monetization, which might be taboo because no one likes to talk about money, but you know, what happens when you become a partner to certain places and whatnot. So I talk about that. I basically reveal a lot of the shit that people don't want to talk about. I talk about, you know, people wanting people becoming lapdogs and how they use their power once they get a little bit of a leash, and they go and really attack others like for no fucking reason. Um, what else was the main part of that? Oh yeah, I also talk about how Nick Lo Piccolo came on the scene in the wrestling sphere and disrupted you know, disrupted everybody, and that was great. So I talk about him. By the way, I just added some comments here that I just want to read out. You know, somebody will type to you, you know, I'll fight you for charity, which by the way has been actual tweets, because you know, once a pussy, always a pussy. And basically, they know that they could get away with it with a charity. That if they want to fight you, they'll do it for charity, and that's how they get away with it. That's a loophole. And it's like, well, you're not being a man. You say you're a man, but you're not being a man. Why don't you like actually like fist fight people? You know, and if that's their, you know, get out of free jail card kind of way, be like, oh, I'll fight you for charity because it has to be for charity. And that's really sad, because the money that will come in for charity that you're fighting, that's really, that's a bad connotation when the kids learn that, oh yeah, the money that for your charity, it came through a fight. Two people had a fight for you. Like what? Because if you know, if you break that guy's nose or whatever and they start bleeding, essentially that would become blood money. I think that's how that works, right? Makes no sense to be like, I'll fight you for charity. Man, just fight them, man. What happened to like the good old days of like men being like, hey, I don't like you, let's just have a quick fist fight, and then you guys kind of be like, all right, you're good, you want a beer, awesome, you guys go buy beers. The next comment is thanking men for crumbs is silly. That does not sit right with me at all. Like, thank you men for everything that you've done. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Somebody else would leave a comment like, you get 0 views. Well, yeah, you're a burner and you're a bot. You wouldn't know anything about views. Somebody else would say POS, which is piece of shit. No one likes you, which I think we've all had, which is like, bro, I don't even know who you are. Why are you typing? The next one would be why do you even bother making content? We've all heard that one. I make content because I have a voice and I want to talk about things and I love what I do and I love my community. Somebody really did say that I can't even, I thought I could like read it from here. Oh, someone really did say that I'm a productive member of society, not you. What does being a productive member of society have to do with you being a bully and not holding yourself accountable for being a bully? Which I explain in this free Discord voice notes, that you could be a productive member of society all you want, but you still came online and bully a black man for no reason. And it was like borderline racist. And you wouldn't like acknowledge it or be like, oh shit, maybe I should back off a little bit. But then to throw in the face of like, I'm a productive member of society, not you. That's not brownie points. That's not the flex you think it is. It's not. And then somebody also probably could send you a message that says, how broke are you? Yes, because burner accounts don't really care about you as a content creator, and they don't care about you as a person. They care about getting you upset. They care about, you crashing out. So that way when you crash out, they could be like, you're so weird. Why are you crashing out for? It's not that serious. And because they know that it's the internet and you're not going to go over there and punch them in the face, they can say and do whatever they want. And there's no respect. Even though they say they give respect, there's no tolerance. Even though they say they give tolerance, there's really nothing. They basically throw away the idea of principle just so that way they could be online and be as loud and rambunctious as they are. And basically it doesn't do nobody any good. So by the way, that was the official Rumble intro to like who I am, what I make, and like why some of my content had to become political. Because if you go to the back catalog, most of the stuff, if not all of it, it is basically all kayfabe, all professional wrestling. But moving forward, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna do some other new things and whatnot. I do hope that that was very enlightening to people out there. Sorry about earlier where like my streams are messing up. I guess I can't, multi-stream to like 3 different places. So I might have to do like 2 and switch around, but I do want to come back for another live stream and talk about Jelly Roll's promo, because Jelly Roll is good. It's just that there's some stuff he needs to do to be polished, but I know he's probably not going to be in this for a very, very long time, but you never know. But I like to help out as much as I can in the wrestling business. It's my way of giving back. But yes. Denisha, what's up? But I think that's all I have for today. Because I'm hungry. I need to go probably make myself something to eat. But in the future, there is the treat stream there for you guys to send me food, so that way I can become a proper streamer and basically stay for long hours, and we talk about wrestling and we talk about this and we talk about that. Yeah, I know. I commented on that during this whole video. I ranted about that. I really did. Oh my God. I also need some water too, but yeah, I'm gonna be wrapping up the stream because I've said everything that I needed to say. Yo, G Coalition, what's up, man? Thank you for coming towards the end of the stream. Thank you, men, for crumbs. Yes, really, building all the physical infrastructure that makes professional wrestling possible, being all the biggest draws before the 21st century. Yeah, dude, listen, when I got told that, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, men do a lot, women do a lot, okay? Both of these sexes and genders do a lot. They basically do they do a lot. Yeah, the replay will be up. Unless like YouTube has a problem with it. But I also have I also started on Rumble too, so I'm looking to get that up and going as well. But yeah, I'm gonna be wrapping up and not gatekeeping women out of the business. So silly, y'all. Huh. Um. Anyway, I'm gonna be wrapping this up. Again, if you like this, I am Marie Shadows, host of the Square Circle podcast, host of the Crossroads interviews and editorials, and also the Discord notes. If you liked what you heard here today, make sure to follow all the channels. Make sure to follow Rumble. Make sure to follow YouTube, youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast /join to become a new member. When you become a new member, you will be getting access to the Discord of the chat community, as paid. And then also that membership helps me out too. marieshadows.substack.com is my free wrestling newsletter with, of course, upgrades to pay as possible. buymeacoffee.com/Marie Shadows is basically a tip jar. And yeah, all of my links, campsite.bio /Marie Shadows. Look out on my social media, meaning like the Discord, meaning Twitter @Marie_Shadows for when I'm going to be streaming live next. For Rumble users only, after this live stream, I will be uploading those episodes so that way you guys can hear them and leave some comments and stuff like that. YouTube already has them, and then eventually I will be uploading my catalog up on Rumble. We'll see how it goes. Again, I am brand new over there. YouTube, I love you guys. Denisha, G Coalition, College Guy. I know I need to get myself something to eat. I'm low on everything at my house, so I gotta really try. Matt, Chris, Bubba Matt, Y2 Viral, everybody that came by, thank you. For everyone that watched over on Rumble, thank you. I really love you guys. I'll see you guys on the next one. Yeah, stay tuned to all social media.